Walaikum salam, walaikum salam. You guys let me know, can you hear me clearly? Can you guys hear me? How's the sound? Okay. Okay. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. Got some guests coming in. You guys let me know where you're from, what the country is, where you at. We're dealing with an important topic tonight. A very important topic. Okay, I'm not sure that flag. What is that flag? Okay, Italy. Okay, talk to me. Where else? There we go. Just 1 second. France. Okay. Okay. Look, I'm straight American. I'm not too up to date on soccer. You guys won like a match against Morocco the other day, right? Like, is that the end or of the World Cup, or where we at with that? Okay. Just a few more minutes, guys. Got some guests coming in and last minute updates. And we'll be started. What question you guys have? Finals on Sunday. Okay. Shows you I'm look, I'm straight like American. So tonight's topic, man, is one that comes from an important place, man. A lot of brothers have reached out to me in a state of distress, disturbance over this inability to get married. And one of the things that I want to do is address that. Alhamdulillah, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you go back, make sure you give my brother Abu American the salams. Tell him that I said salams. Hope him and the family are well. So yeah, this topic tonight came from some recent interactions with brothers that are in the Abdul Malik title cracks me up. Yeah. So the title comes from, the work I do is coaching Muslims in the UK, Canada, the States, predominantly sisters, and the brothers that I work with, the majority of them are in financially a good space. And so their experience in the Muslim marriage market is quite different than, I would say, the typical brother. And with that being said, apologies, I think the connection might have been a challenge. But with that said, I think what I've realized is with brothers that may not have certain resources, I'm finding that they're finding it very difficult to get the interest of sisters. And they're taking that very hard, emotionally, mentally, and emotionally. And so what I've found with them is that oftentimes they're viewing themselves as undesirable, right? And self-downing. Image is frozen. Is it still frozen now? You guys let me know. Make sure everything is good. Yeah. So am I still frozen now, guys? Let me know. And that's interesting because okay, I see a yes, sir. Is that a yes, sir? I'm still frozen, or a yes, sir, that you can see me? Okay, so give me 1 minute, guys. Let me see what I can do. Talk to me. How are things now? We good? Okay. I think there's a slight lag. Yes, there was a black screen, and then I came back on. So let's get this straight. Make sure that you guys are good. You can see me. I'll just wait for you guys to give me that okay. So I'm seeing me. Why is the screen? It says that I'm still on. Okay, let me try one other thing. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. My brother, Muhammad, is here. Muhammad, are you ready? Are you ready to enter, my brother? Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أخ الكريم, أخ الحبيب, how's it going? It's been a hot minute.
It is. And so look, Habib, let me ask you this. Can you see me, or is it a black screen for you? Can
I
you
can
see
see you
me?
now. I can see the mint green, mashallah ta'ala. With a tropical green there as well, mashallah ta'ala. Allahumma barik. Allahumma barik. Allahumma barik.
MashaAllah.
And the coffee as always. Allahumma barik.
You know me, because it's late here. It's 11:14.
The after eight mint green. It has to be.
That's right. That's right. This is the after hours. You know,
mashallah ta'ala.
Keeping it halal.
Come on, we have to do it.
Alhamdulillah.
How you doing, my brother?
Man, I can't complain. How you?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Akhi, forgive me for just on the way, man. It's had a lot of reflections. But yeah, time to reflect on how barik, man. It's one of those times in the UK where you don't really go out. You just kind of reflect, with the cold that we're facing right now. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the one who changes the weathers, and with each weather, with each season, there's a moment to kind of reflect and pause on our lives as well. And we've got a very important topic. May Allah bless you, Akhi.
Yeah. I hope that I know you and our brother Mahdi will do it justice, and I hope that I can do it justice as well, because
sure.
As I was saying before you came in, that majority of my client base are Muslim women, right? And a small segment of my male population I work with, the larger part are brothers that are financially in a good place, right? And so their experience in the marriage market is different than a smaller segment of the brothers that are reaching out to me that I work with, that may not have the resources that the other brothers that I work with do. And so the challenge with this that I'm finding is they're taking it extremely hard emotionally. Like, it's really taking them into, at times, a dark space. And so one of the things that I wanted to do tonight is, just to hear from you, hear from Mahdi, and just, what do you guys see with the brothers that you talk to, in terms of this type of issue of dealing with it mentally and emotionally, of not finding that partner that you want, and or when you do find sisters, you're finding that they just want to use you, right? You know what I mean? It's like, do you want me because I am a nice guy, or do you just want me for what I can bring to this relationship, to this marriage, right? And so I find that brothers are struggling with that, and I wanted us to address that, right? Because for me, it's a thinking issue, and I approach it that way. But I also want to hear, what you brothers are hearing, and because oftentimes I think what brothers are thinking and feeling is not really given attention.
I think for me, Akhi, I mean, we chopped it up a little bit behind, before this. Essentially, you gave me your thoughts, and I was like, alhamdulillah, it's a very important perspective that you bring. It's about cognition, it's about perspective, it's about the lens, as you put it, that you apply to the marriage market. And we often talk about the marriage market as a place, as any other market. Why do you pour your emotions in? If I were to go buy a car someplace, I wouldn't say that I deserve X, Y, Z. I would look at my budget and what I can afford. But the perspective that I would like to bring in, inshallah ta'ala, is one of knowledge, one of Assalamu alaikum
wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Forgive me, Ikhwan, I'm mad ill. I've got like tissues up my nose and everything.
Nah, you good, man. You got that Barry White sound right now. You know what I mean? And look, I'm just saying, be careful. I don't know. I ain't trying to put you, I'm a brother. I ain't never trying to put a brother on Front Street. I don't know how many spots you got. But with that Barry White, bruh, I'm just saying.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it, brother.
I'm just saying.
A proper flex, isn't it? Proper
flex.
Flex.
Hey,
oh my God.
Hey, You got some that'll be in the chat and say they want to change it for you.
They told me to be a purple cow. They told me that in marketing you got to be a purple cow. So here I am. I've got tissue up my nose.
Oh, bro.
Welcome, welcome.
That's a new flex.
Hey,
The
the beauty is, so Habib, look, you're just on time. If you don't mind, Muhammad, I'm gonna just kind of repeat just right quick, and then we can just dive right in. So look, Mahdi, the thing is this: like, I wanted to hear from the two of you, because my client base is more so women, right? And the brothers that I do work with, the majority of them are brothers that are financially in a good space. Some of them are divorced, but again, they're still financially in a good pace. So them coming back into the Muslim marriage market, they're coming in with still a lot of leverage. But there is a segment that has reached out to me because of the emotional distress that they're going through in the market. Apologies. Are we good now? Self-love.
Hey,
so alaikum salam. So I have to. So Self, I'm just laying the foundation. So I'll just say this: there's a small segment of my client base that are brothers that don't have the financial means, right? And so their experience in the Muslim marriage market is very different than the other brothers that I work with that are accomplished and that are in a good space. And again, the majority that I work with are Muslim women. So with that being said, I wanted to reach out to you brothers because I wanted to hear, what are you hearing from brothers that are struggling within this market, within this effort to try to get married? What are you saying to them? And what are you hearing in terms of what are they thinking and feeling? Because when they get to me, they're in a space of distress, right? And so I view it from a lens that I can get into later, from a more counseling, coaching lens. So I think of it as a thinking issue. But I would love to hear what you brothers have to say, because you would be able to help some brothers navigate this process that can be a long process.
When they get to you, you said, who's in distress, the woman or the man?
No, so the brothers. So right now the focus tonight, and obviously we brothers, we chop it up. The conversation go a million different ways, and that's good. But the focus right now is those brothers that are in the Muslim marriage market looking for sisters, but find it difficult because they don't have the resources that some other brothers have, right? They don't have the finesse that maybe some other brothers have. And so they're struggling, right? Like, I got brothers, when they come to me, they're straight up, they feel undesirable. And that's why I made the title Undesirable Men, right? Feeling expendable, right? Because what I hear is women just want to use me. They don't like me for me being a nice guy, for me being a good Muslim, right? They don't want that.
Well, I think in life, to that point, I want to say the quote accurately, but it says the goal of life is to be used, not misused. So we're all being used. Okay, like my job is using me, everybody's using me, my family's using me, so everybody's using, but it's with my permission. So that's just part of being a human being. Especially the more value you have, the more people are going to use you. So that's just, if they're having a problem with that, I think they, psychologically speaking, they got to get over that, the fact of being used. Again, when you get used without your permission or against your will, i.e. slavery, then that's when it becomes a problem.
I will add to that, and that is, this reminds me of something Kevin Samuels said whilst he was alive, which was, he said, I want to be used, because if I can be used, it means I'm useful, right? If you can't be used, it means you're not useful. However, there's a caveat. And the caveat is you will start to feel some type of way if that feeling is not mutually reciprocated in some way, shape, or form. If you feel that your investment or your use is more than what you are receiving in return, then this is an issue. And shout out to Nick, by the way. Nick just DM'd me. Nick wants to take his Shahada, and I believe he wants to do it on this live as well.
Allahu Akbar.
Akhi Nick. So we'll bring
If we can make that happen.
Yeah, we'll bring our Nick on, inshallah.
But Nick makes a really good point about brothers raise your value. I think that's essentially what these brothers have to do. And value could mean a variety. I mean, the whole purpose of life is personal development through the closeness of God. So whether that means you have to, that's what we're all striving to do. And for some people, there's a lot of guys who are billionaires who probably, believe it or not, can't get meaningful relationships because women
100%.
use them for their money and they don't have it. They can't see past that. So maybe they got to work on integrity, physical fitness, and other intrinsic values to
100%.
improve their status and influence with women. So nobody has it easy. There's gorgeous
100%.
women who don't get taken seriously because that's all they've had to offer. So they have to dig a little bit deeper in themselves and maybe improve on their modesty or their nurturing or supporting ability. So everybody got problems and everybody has to kind of dig, there's no perfect people.
100%. I think LL Cool J. Ladies love Cool James. Come on, man. You know the guy. You know the guy's got stripes. You know the guy's got experience. He said on the podcast that it's not enough. It's not enough to have resources. It's not enough to throw money on a woman to be able to get her. And subhanAllah, I remember one brother from the Khalij came into the university flexing up his Prada jacket, coming through looking suave. But yeah, he wasn't able to execute on his game plan. It takes way more than just resources.
And just to add to that point, I was watching. I'm a Marvel buff, and I was watching Daredevil, and the Kingpin said something. He said, "A woman that can be bought isn't worth having." So that just shows you about what the money's worth. I mean, it's part of it. Don't get me wrong, right? But if that's the primary, you're going to have a hard time keeping that woman happy.
Can you say that one back again, Seth? A woman that is what?
A woman that can be bought isn't worth having.
I got you.
So
so a couple of things with that. One, I agree. We all know that the first advice we give is for brothers to put in the work to level up, as our brother Nick mentioned. But the point that I want us to kind of speak a little bit more to is that time between where you are right now and the actual level up, or the actual point of where you have certain value that can get you the sisters that you're looking for. How do you cope with that in the interim? Because for me, what I'm finding is there's a thinking problem that's happening that's causing them to respond in a way that actually is self-sabotaging, right? Because for example, when you're really on you got a vision, you're on your program and you're hustling, brothers can smell it. They can see it in you. And I think sisters can see it as well when you're focused on something. But similarly, when you're not in a good space emotionally, it also permeates out. You bleed over other people and your interactions, right? And so the question becomes, how do you approach this time frame between where you're at right now and where you want to get, where in that you have that value in the market? How do you deal with that? Right? Because we can tell people to get here, but how do you help them get there in a manner where it's not self-sabotaging? I.e. self-sabotaging, I comfort eat, I don't go to the gym. Self-sabotaging that I stay in the bed and I skip work. I keep calling out from work, and then I start losing, I lose my status at my job, which will eventually stop me from getting the promotion I want. Or i.e. I spend my nights not on a live listening to four brothers give game, and I spend it watching something that probably isn't permissible. Right? So how do you handle that gap?
I've taken some notes here. I actually really thought quite deeply about your question earlier today, Nasser, which was when you mentioned that you've had a couple of brothers who have been in tears at some point, feeling used by the sisters and so on. And I really went away and thought about this, and I've taken a couple of notes down, and I'm going to just refer to my notes as I speak, inshallah. And I have 3 main points. And the first point is that if you are a man who can relate to this feeling of either being used by women or that women see you as a tool to extract something from but don't actually want to be with you per se, then I need you to consider the possibility, and I use the word consider because it's not a conclusive statement, but consider the possibility that perhaps you deserve to be used. Just consider it, entertain it, think about it. Why do I say that? Well, maybe you're a loser. And I don't mean socioeconomically, I don't mean income-wise, okay? We are living in a time right now where the average hand grip strength of a woman in the Western world is stronger than the average hand grip strength of a man. Yani, this is pathetic. We're living in a time of great relative ease and luxury. And as you guys know, the old adage, good times create weak men. So what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to conquer? And I don't mean the big goals like start up some 500 employee business. No, what are you conquering on a day-to-day basis? Because Nasser, you touched upon something very important, which was brothers and sisters can smell the energy of someone who's on a mission, who's going somewhere. You can kind of just sense it. You can smell it. He has an aura about him. Men can sense it and women can sense it. And if you are not on that mission somewhere, if you are not conquering daily in your life, conquering could mean today I'm going to get up at 7 a.m. and I'm going to do that consistently, for example, right? Or I'm going to run half an hour a day, or I'm going to commit myself to something. I'm going to commit myself to something small, basita. I'm not saying to you to do something big and conquer the world, something small, right? Even the most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is performed consistently. That's the most beloved deed to Allah. So there's something to be said about consistency and continuity. It develops this edge inside of you. So I need you to consider the possibility that maybe you deserve to be used. But maybe this is not the case, because as our brother, I don't know if it was Seth or you, Nasser, mentioned just now, that there are very wealthy men, sometimes billionaires, and they're still getting used by women. Men who are exceptionally successful in their respective endeavors, consistent, professional, leaders. But when it comes to women, they're just lost cause. Which moves us on to point number 2, which is after you have considered the possibility that perhaps you deserve to be used, if you've crossed that off, well, this now relates to a video I have on my channel, on my YouTube channel. You can check. I can't remember the title of the thumbnail is Trap Her, but I can't remember what the title of the video was. But you can see it's one of the recent ones, and that is that men have a tendency to over-invest in women without requiring her to invest back into you. Men have, look, we're protectors and providers. We want to protect our women. We want to provide for our women. This is the way it should be. The problem arises when you don't have a healthy level of expectation from her and what value she brings to you in return. Because the subcommunication here is, if you're giving her everything, you're paying for everything, you're doing everything for her, you're going above and beyond, and you expect very little from her in return, there's a message that is being subcommunicated to her, and that is she's more important than you, and that is you need to prove yourself to her, and that is that you're not worth much, and the way that you're compensating for this lack of worth is by doing all of this extra stuff. You don't have a healthy level of expectation of what she should invest back into you. And I gave an example on that video. It was a punitive example, but it doesn't have to be punitive. Punitive meaning punishment, for want of a better word. And that was, just to give a random example, I arranged to meet one of my wives. We were going to go out for dinner, and she was late to where we were supposed to meet. And I didn't complain. I didn't get upset with her. But she was late, and we had arranged to meet at a particular time. She was around half an hour late. When she arrived and met me at the location, I didn't even raise the issue. I didn't get upset with her. I didn't bash her phone before then. We didn't get into a fight. Hello, Habibti, how are you? You okay? Alhamdulillah. Yes, alhamdulillah. Sweetheart, you're paying for the dinner tonight. Oh, is it like, no, you're late. And there has to be you've disrespected my time. So because of that, you're paying for the dinner. And you know what?
She loved it. She absolutely loved that I had the balls to implement a punitive measure. It's a small thing. It's not a big deal. Wallahi, she had a smile on her face. Now, let me tell you something. It killed me inside. It killed me. Like her taking her money out and paying for the fish and chips killed me, bro. I hated it. But I'm always conscious and aware of these power dynamics, this understanding of, woman, you must respect my time. My time is important. And the only way for her to respect that time is to put a price on that time. That's the only way she will be able to value it. Okay? Now, that's a punitive measure, but it doesn't have to be punitive. You just need to be aware when you're in a relationship with a woman that she is investing in you in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes that can be monetary. Maybe she does pay for a meal sometimes. Maybe she buys you some clothes or a gift. Maybe she does things for you around the house, but she has to be investing in you. Do you know when men go through really bad heartbreak? Is when he's invested so much in her, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's resources, whether it's emotion. And she hasn't invested a similar amount back into him, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's emotion, and so on. And this can create what is known as a passion trap dynamic as well. And I recommend your audience to read that book, The Passion Trap. Very enlightening book with regards to passion dynamics or love dynamics between man and woman. And that is when a man or a woman becomes slightly put off by his partner or her partner, one will pull away slightly. The effect it has on the other party is that they start to become a little bit insecure, and then they try harder to please the one who's pulling away. This is the worst thing you can do. If your wife suddenly goes cold on you, or your girlfriend, or maybe some non-Muslims are watching, the worst thing you can do is crowd her space with gifts and affection and phone calls and good morning, darling. The sun is shining and I saw your face. Bro, stop the cat, please. Yeah, that's literally the worst thing you can do. You need to also pull back, because desire is like a fire. Fire needs space, oxygen to burn. She needs space, or maybe he needs space. If you crowd it with too much acts of service or gifts or whatever, you're going to put that fire out. So what I have found in my experience is that men generally over-invest in women. They over-invest emotionally. They over-invest with their time. They over-invest with their money. So that's the second point. Men have a tendency of over-investing. And then the third point is, I just mentioned it, seduction needs space. So you need to constantly be aware of, resist the temptation to text her all the time. Or why don't you love? Why are you being so distant? Resist that urge, because passion, desire, and love, none of it can be negotiated. You can't talk about it. Let's have a healthy discussion as to why I don't feel loved by you. That's not the way it goes. It's something badihi, it's natural. It comes about naturally and it goes naturally. You can't actually put a logical explanation to it. It's coming and it's going. The best thing you can do if you feel your partner slightly distant is for you to also take some distance and resist the urge to be needy, because this is when now they sense you're leeching off of them, or you're attempting to leech off of them. And this is what we would call a selfish love anyway. I hope that was beneficial, inshallah.
Yeah, it was. And what it brings to mind for me, I'll be very quick, is that in order to implement that, you also need to make sure that you're in the right space mentally. Because what I've seen that can sabotage that type of strategy that I would agree is effective is your fear of being alone. Right? A man that is fearful of being alone is going to act out of desperation. So two of the things that I see that is very problematic when it comes to the men that have reached out to me, that kind of the impetus for this dialogue, is one, this fear of being alone. Because if I respond a certain way, then I'll be alone. If I'm not a nice guy, then I will be alone. And then it's this unhealthy need. I would almost say a demand, an unhealthy demand and desire for certainty. Certainty that this is going to work out. Right? Certainty that I'm going to find. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Outcome dependency.
Yeah, and I it's that certainty that I have to find the woman who's the one for me, right? So those are kind of two of the main things: fear of being alone, this unhealthy desire for and need for certainty, and I think the other thing is, and this kind of is another point, is this demand that it has to have happened by now, right? Like we create this timeline that by, like one of the brothers is saying to me, he said to me, Ak, I'm 31 and I still am not married. Like, and I was saying to him, I put the model on, like, yo, where's the evidence that you have to be married by 31 in order to get married and have a healthy marriage?
Well,
right?
I will. Maybe I'll push back on that slightly. I've mentioned this in a couple of my lives in the past, and I saw one day he made a video back in 2010. Now the marriage climate has changed considerably since then. However, his point is still worth discussing. And he mentioned, if you're a practicing Muslim man, okay, you're not engaged in zina or anything like this, and you've never been married by the age of 25, there's something wrong with you. And I'm quoting his words verbatim. He's a well-known da'i in the Muslim world. On YouTube's got massive following and so on. He said, there's something wrong with you. And I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm simply saying it's something to consider. If you have spent a meaningful period of time, we're talking now consecutive years, trying to get married, and you have been unsuccessful, at a minimum, you need to go a bit introspective. For the sisters, I'm even harsher on them, by the way, because women have far more options than men do. For the brothers, I'm a bit more lenient in this regard. If a sister's not married by 25, and you've been trying to get married, you are definitely the problem, because I know you have options. I know you have options. I see it. I'm dealing with you. There's so many options. You are the problem. Brothers, it's a slightly different situation. They have far fewer options, especially with the invention of marriage apps and these sorts of things that have created the paradox of choice for women and are causing them to hold out for longer and so on. However, just consider, if you've been trying for many years, a self-audit is required. Companies self-audit. Government self-audit. A self-audit is required. If you've been trying to achieve something and it hasn't worked out for you, at a minimum, you must do the self-audit. And maybe you will find something. Maybe you won't. But you should do it regardless.
Okay, I wanted to comment on a couple of things you said, Mahdi. First of all, great insight. You ain't never lied, brother. So you dead on with everything you said. Couple things I want to add to is as far as a couple of advice tips that I want to bring before I forget. I would say for those men, I would say number one, link up with similar minded brothers who you're trying to get out of that hole with. So like for instance, if you're trying to get in shape, you want to hang around people who are in shape, who make proper food choices. Because if you struggle, you got to be honest with yourself. Hey, if you struggle with it on your own, you need to get in some meetup groups. There's always benefits in groups. So I would recommend, surround yourself with the people who you want to be like to a certain extent. So I would recommend that. I would say the other thing, you said something, I lost my second train of thought. So it'll come back to me, but that's something that I wanted to say.
Push back.
Can I jump?
Push back?
Please.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, if I can push back slightly on Brother Seth, it's true that there's value in going with, having a bunch of brothers who are like-minded and doing things. But what we find often in Telegram groups, people, WhatsApp groups, brothers who are all single and looking, it's often the same thing. It's, criticizing sisters, going down this path of like, why are sisters like this? Why are they valuing me on this and that? So it's often feeding each other this negativity. And I've been in a lot of groups, Akhi. I've been in a lot of groups.
No.
Single brothers.
No, I was saying people who are better than you, not like you.
Single brothers.
Yeah. So if you're out of shape, don't hang around a whole bunch of people who are out of shape. Hang around the bodybuilder. Hang around the fitness guy, because
married brothers.
Or the married brothers, exactly. Oh, and my second point, my other point, Mahdi, what you said, which having that discipline of holding back and not being too needy and things of that nature. I think a big challenge with that is Western thought, right? A lot of Muslim brothers, you know, had gotten caught up in the trap of I only want to get married once, and there's a soulmate, and it's like, hey, you may get married at 19, you may get married again at 28, you may be adding somebody, you know, this whole concept of, and you know, we're as human beings, we're always changing. I'm not the same person I was when I got married at 26 that I am now. But my point is, we have to some extent get out of this, have to get it right on the first time, especially when we see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a beneficiary of divorce with Zayd's ex-wife. So if our Prophet,
this was wahi. This was wahi. This was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No, but the point of the command was to normalize it, to normalize women getting divorced and still having value. I don't know about that, Allah. I know that for him to marry Zainab radiallahu anha was a command from Allah. I didn't know that the meaning was to normalize divorce. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Okay, well, she was divorcee, correct?
Well, طبعا, Zayd would have had to divorce his wife.
Exactly. So my point, I mean, Allah knows best. There's not one answer in my opinion. But my point that I do want to say is that these things happen, and the Prophet was sent as an example. So we have to, and so I think it will provide some benefit to brothers to know that you may not get it right. You may not get it right. Like, you know, like divorce is a reality. Like, we have to accept it. But what happens is, in the pursuit of perfection, we're afraid to make mistakes. And what that does is it creates probably even more problems. So I would just say that one. And then the last point is to your point about having that discipline. I think from a man's perspective, I think everything you said, I agree with 100%. It's just hard for a man to show that, you know, most men, especially in American culture, happy wife, happy life, they overinvest. And that's a strong social conditioning campaign that I think, you know, can be overcome with obviously a certain degree of self-discipline, which most men don't have, and it's not really encouraged. Certainly, if a man has multiple wives, that's a lot easier to tell one wife no. But these things are strong. You know, that's tough.
You know what the funny thing is, Akhi Seth? The funny thing is this. Happy wife, happy life is actually true, by the way. I agree with the statement completely. And
so do I, but
the wife is happiest when she is in servitude of her husband.
100%.
That's what
she's happy. But that's not what it implies, though. You know,
of course.
Yeah. But it's, first of all, men and women don't know that women are happier when they're in the beta role. They'll search their whole life to find a man that can make them feel beta. You know, it always baffled me when you would see these gorgeous women with women beaters. And it's like, why is this woman so attractive and she's with this woman beater? And it's like, because all the other men pedestalize her and make her feel like a man. They make her feel like the catch, whereas this woman beater is treating her like nothing and she loves it. You know, so when men understand that you're more at value when you're in the masculine role, and one thing I want to say is that in order to be in that role, you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else. And to your point, guys take a lot of crap because they don't respect themselves. And so, like you said, subconsciously, the woman is just responding on how you act. Because if you didn't tell your wife to pay for the meal, then you don't respect your time. So why should she?
Exactly. And you don't respect your time. It's absolutely right.
Yeah. If you talk loud, if she comes at you and you don't calibrate her, then you don't feel like you deserve, you know what I'm saying, a certain degree of tone and respect.
Yeah. So Mahdi, to the point that you made earlier, I don't know if it's, I think it's two separate points. So when I was saying that, what I find is some brothers have this demand for certainty, right? And a demand that it should have happened by now. The point that the Sheikh is making, I think, if anything, validates the point that I'm making, right? And so that's this. if we can say for the sake of discussion that the Sheikh is right, that if you're not married as a brother by 25, then there's something wrong with you. It was 25, correct? That you
Well,
said?
again, let's put caveats on this. You're a practicing Muslim man. You're not involved in promiscuous relationships, right? So you've been practicing from puberty until then. That's the presumption here. Not you started practicing yesterday, tomorrow you turn 25. And do you understand? Like, we have to
Got it.
provide the correct
Let's
context.
just say all of that is there. All of that is there. Exactly what the Sheikh is saying. My point is that even with all that in place, you still shouldn't have a demand that it must happen by now. Because the reality is you can have those other things in place, but still have character issues that are getting in the way of you getting married.
And you know what the funny thing is, Akhi Nasser, to add to your point there, if you do start projecting this energy of I should have been this by now, or I should have been that by now, I should have been, that neediness, that energy starts to come off, and women hate that stuff, man. They hate
Exactly.
that. Anyone would hate that, frankly.
And the follow-up to that, so this is what I always tell clients: always play the tape all the way out. You're only talking about one sentence. Play the next two sentences or the next two songs out. And really what comes after that, which is you say, I should have been married by now. Sisters that are listening, pay attention to this, because I hear this often with you guys as well. I should have been married by now. It must be something wrong with me. Right? And the reality is, and this is that nuance where I think coaching and counseling is very important. We have to be very nuanced when we're talking about something is wrong with me. From a counseling lens, it's nothing wrong with you. It's something wrong with certain characteristics and skill sets that you have. Because that's what the whole leveling up is. Leveling up is leveling up on the skill sets, the attributes, the finesse. You can't level up on your actual worth, right? So when we're saying that something is wrong with you, the language we all understand, but when someone's in a bad space, they take it literally. Meaning that something is wrong with all of you.
I got you.
Right? Not these attributes, right? Your financial status, right?
I guess that's an important
how you take care of your health.
If someone's in a bad place, yeah, the last thing you want to do is kick a man when he's down. So that's a beneficial.
But just one nuance, because with men it's important. Taking the self-accountability of kicking yourself. You have to, as a man, be nuanced with your language and how you talk to yourself. It's nothing wrong with you. It's something wrong with your attributes, your skill sets, your financial status, right? Those are all measurable things. Like, really, how do you measure you as a person? You get my point? Like, what is the thing that makes you?
Yeah, because you can't change your sense of humor. You know, either you got it or either you have comedic timing or not, but you can certainly improve your condition, your health, your understanding, your emotional maturity. These things are learned behaviors that can be done and can be improved upon. One thing I also wanted to add to your point as you're talking about tips to help yourself level up as a man. It was 2 points that I thought, but the other one was, and there's books that kind of talk about this, but making yourself more accountable to yourself. So creating to-do list. When you create to-do lists, studies show that typically translates into other aspects of your life. So if you say, I'm going to read 1 page of Quran, or I'm going to, you know, like the brother said about the consistent but small daily habit will typically translate into greater, more, you know, more greater and bigger and stronger habits down the line. But you got to start somewhere, you know. So and Allah talks about how people change. He gave the Quran in stages for a reason. So those are 2 things I would say. Hang around people who are better than you. Like, for instance, like that's why people hire personal trainers, you know, because they want to have somebody that they want somebody that they want to look like. So if that's what it takes, invest some money into that. If fitness is your thing, if it's a smart person, you know, hire a financial advisor or whatever. But
I will add some nuance to that as well, Seth. I will add some nuance to that, because let me
Mahdi, 1 second though.
Yeah, of course.
After you finish, we gotta let that beautiful brother up top
No, I'm just
join
listening.
in this.
I'm
Because
listening.
he taking a whole lot of notes, and I want to know what's in that head. I want to know what's under the cap, bro.
After you.
Nah, I want to know.
It's these brothers with the cake in the room, the cumulative awareness, knowledge, and experience, man. I'm just here learning.
Yeah. So using the fitness example Seth gave just now, I've been in the fitness world for basically from the womb, pretty much. But since I've left home at 16, I've been in gyms and different sports and so on. And the worst advice I have ever received is from the genetic freaks, right? The guys who are just shredded to the bone, typically our Nigerian brothers, shredded, strong, hella shredded. They give me the worst advice. You know why? They are almost blind to their natural God-given privileges and advantages. They're almost blind to it. I knew one guy, he said to me as a joke, but he really wasn't joking. He was an IFBB pro, professional bodybuilder. He said to me, Mahdi, I can look at weights and my muscles will start filling up with blood. And this guy gave me the worst fitness advice. He was like, no, make sure you have loads of junk food and just lift really heavy. You're going to be shredded and muscular. Habibi, that's what happened for you because you have a myostatin deficiency, which means that your body can't stop producing muscle whilst keeping you very lean and so on and so forth. The worst fitness advice I've ever gotten is from genetic freaks. The best fitness advice I've ever gotten is from guys who have mediocre genetics, but have done something quite spectacular with their body, considering their genetic lot. Equally, if you're going to take marriage advice, be careful that the individual you're talking to is not an exceptional individual, for example, in his looks, all right? Or I'm not saying you can't take advice from him. I'm just simply saying if he is unaware of his natural privileges, he's 6'5", he's very good looking, he's got the Chad jawline and so on, he might give you advice that will not be appropriate for you. And these guys, okay, the 6'5" guys who've got the Chad jawlines and so on, they hate to admit this. They hate to admit or acknowledge that they have certain God-given privileges because we all like to feel that the reason why I have this thing in my life is because of me, because I worked hard and I put in the sweat and the time to become this person, and that's why I have all this money, and that's why these women like me. And there may be truth in that. However, there are advantages that certain individuals have that cannot be ignored. In the case of looks, some men just look better than others. It is what it is. In the case of finance, some individuals are more intelligent than others. There is an inextricable link, for example, between your ability to earn income and IQ level, intelligence level. It's an inextricable link. The wealthiest people on the planet are the Bill Gates and the Elon Musks. Do you really think they went to Luton University? No, bro. They went to Harvard, or maybe they're Harvard dropouts or whatever, but they're extremely intelligent. So the point I'm making is the individual you take advice from, you need to ask yourself two questions. Number one, is he blind to his natural God-given gifts if he has them? Is he blind to them? Number two is if he's not blind to them, is he tailoring his advice for me? Okay? Because let's not pretend like that women like tall men or women like men with square jawlines and a particular type. They have a natural affinity to those guys, and those guys will be able to make more mistakes or have a greater room for error with women than a brother who, for example, maybe he's 5'1" and he's got a circle face, and do you understand the point that I'm making?
Yeah. But not, I'm not going to contradict that statement, but let me add to it from the standpoint of if Michael Jordan is somebody, he's 6'6", I'm 6'1", I'll never genetically, but that doesn't mean that I still can't get inspired and be the best version of myself. So
you can be the best version of yourself, but you're never going to be Michael Jordan. And this is where and this is a Western thing as well, particularly in America, which is you can become anything you want. No, you can't. No, you can't. Let me just crush this. You cannot become anything you want. Okay? I'm 6'3". I will never, ever be an F1 fighter jet pilot. You know why? Because the height cutoff to be a fighter jet pilot is 6 foot. You can't be anything above 6 foot. I didn't even know this. I will never be a professional jockey.
You know why? Horse rider. Because jockeys are like 5'3" and they weigh 55 kilos, if that. So yes, you can improve, but you cannot become anything you want. You can simply maximize on what your potential is.
There you go. Well, that's what I mean. So yeah, you're right. I agree with you. So yeah, maximum, because at some point in time, you know, from a sports analogy, if you had seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stats, you would have never thought nobody was ever going to outdo him. I mean, his high school stats could have probably took him. His high school and college stats could have taken him to the Hall of Fame. So, but and if Jordan looked at it from that perspective, you know, Kareem 7'2" with an unstoppable skyhook, he shouldn't even try. But to your point, being the best version of yourself, and then let the people talk about it.
Yeah, it's just about competing in your lane. Even the 100-meter sprinters, the vast, like 95% of all 100-meter Olympic gold medalists in the men's 100-meter final come from a very specific village in Africa. Their ancestries are from one specific village in Africa. So genetics is a thing. We shouldn't deny it. It is real. It does exist. But one shouldn't be nihilistic and take this to the point of, woe is me, there's no hope for me. No, just as our brother Seth said, you can absolutely max out on your potential. And you know what? We live in a day and age where men are not maxing out on nothing. The modern day man is pathetic. So it's not even like there's much competition, frankly speaking.
And you want to work to your strengths, because Olajuwon grew up playing soccer, and then he ended up being 7'1", but his footwork aided him in his basketball development. But he realized early on that he could be a normal soccer player or a Hall of Fame basketball player. So you want to work towards your strengths. So,
I got to hear from Muhammad.
Bismillah. No, I was just going to say,
I'm trying to find Muhammad.
Just a segue right there, subhanallah. Akhi Nasser, when you mentioned this to us in the Instagram group chat, straight away, subhanallah, I recollected the various conversations I had with so many brothers, subhanallah ta'ala, you know, mentioning the similar things. This woe is me mindset. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I haven't hit my goal by this age, and there's something wrong with me. And you know, but my subhanallah, the one quote that sticks out to me, one of the ulama, they mentioned something really beautiful. He said that, I swear by Allah, a pious wife is nothing but a provision, a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's this reality that we're talking about. Yes, of course, be your best self. You know, look at the various routes to victory. We talk about paths to victory. We talk about, you know, subhanallah, there's this, you know, I work in startups. We talk about, you know, Einstein saying that the level of consciousness which created a problem cannot be the same level of consciousness which solves that problem, right? So you have to change yourself, you've got to level up. The brother Seth was saying, subhanallah, beautifully, and brother Mahdi as well, and yourself. But subhanallah, this should be alarm bells for you if you're feeling depressed, akhi, as brother Nasser said to us. Some brothers, you know, crying on the phone, saying that, you know, that I'm not saying this in terms of belittling anybody. No, I do not belittle, you know, these type of emotions. All I'm saying is, ya akhal kareem, if you are crying over a woman, if you're crying and you're so broken inside because you have not met what you think should be the certainty, as we're saying, the brother said, outcome dependency, then look at yourself and you, as brother Mahdi said, do an audit of the relationship between you and Allah Azza wa Jal. Because wallahi, there's something there that needs to be fixed. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Malak, he has the keys to the hereafter and this dunya. And wallahi al-azim, there's this metaphysical reality. Wallahi, I'm a brother who's standing here in front of you to tell you that I know brothers who on paper, like brother Mahdi said, maybe he's 5'3", bro, but my man maxed out. Allahumma barik. My man maxed out, got maybe an 8.5. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so generous to this brother. So I know, you know, it may sound a bit woo-woo and things like this, but wallahi al-azim, this dunya has no way to go. If you turn on your back and go away from this dunya, this dunya will chase you, wallahi. Look at the book Siyar Alam al-Nubala, the biographies of the Salihin, the way they were. Whenever they see any problem in the dunya, they will say, this is something wrong between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me aslihu ma baynaka wa bayn Allah. If you rectify your affairs between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify your affairs in the dunya, inshallah ta'ala. Because what does that happen? What does that entail when one fixes their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? they then begin to fix their body. They then forget what is in the hands of the people and focus what is on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and people can smell that. The neediness disappears. This absolute neediness and dependency on the womankind, that disappears. You then come into your frame as a Muslim man, as a man who only relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inni ashku bathi wa huzni ila Allah. The man who drops down in sujood and focuses on being on those archetypes which are far beyond any of these archetypes we spoke about, these basketball players. We're talking about the archetypes of Umar radiallahu anhu. We're talking about the archetypes of Khalid bin Walid, these exceptional men who, when they were out on the battlefield, subhanAllah, they would compare that to Khalid bin Walid said, I don't know which one's better. Is it, the first night with the virgin or me in the battlefield? And he said, maybe the battlefield is better for me. SubhanAllah. These are men. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. These men, wallahi, if you put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify your affairs, because you will turn into that man. You will turn into that top tier man who, the dunya has nowhere to go up except to chase this type of brother. SubhanAllah. Wallahi, there's brothers I've seen with my own eyes who are just like this, SubhanAllah. And inshallah we can break it down a bit more. But wallahi, how to turn from a, we talk about the proverbial loser into the winner. Is set your foundations upon Tawheed. Set your foundations such that you are so anti-fragile, bro. Like anything that happens to you, it turns you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You become stronger and stronger. A sister rejects you, you say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I'm gonna focus on myself in the blind spots. Maybe she's picked out on me. Whatever it is. And akhi fillah, if you are so distraught, that is a sign for you to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for him to mend your heart, inshallah ta'ala, and for you to come back. Because who is to say when is the time for you to get married? As the brother was saying earlier, subhanallah, it was like a water tap was just released to me when I spoke to this partner. It was my first job working at Deloitte as an auditor. And I said, I need to be hitting these KPIs. I need to be hitting, the best in my cohort and stuff. And he said, why is that? Why do you feel the world should work the way that you want? And it was such a release for me, subhanAllah. He mentioned to me, CBT, various frameworks. And wallahi, akhi, if you at 31, you're thinking, bro, man needs to have pattern the wife and this and that. But who's to say, akhi Mahdi talks about the bamboo tree, subhanAllah, and how, maybe in the next 2 years, man's gonna pattern 2 wives, bro, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the thing, inshallah ta'ala. I'll just pause it over there. Barakallah feek.
Can I add to that? This is why I think that's a very profound point, and this is where I think that there can be this synergy between using a modality and a modality that can be sensitive to our deen, right? Because fixing that relationship with your Lord is also a part of you letting go of any demands that you're placing on your Lord, right? Like a part of the demand that you have that you should be married by this date is essentially a demand that you're placing on your Lord that he should have made it happen by now. Right? And that's what I'm saying. What the motto says is, one, we can't have demands, and the other thing that creates that discomfort is when we awfulize, meaning that we're saying that a situation we're in is 100% bad. There's absolutely no good that comes out of it. And we know that Allah only gives us what is good for us, right? We may not see the wisdom in it. But again, by using a model, it can help you get your thinking right so that you get your relationship right. And one of the ways in which you do that is getting rid of these demands, getting rid of the demand of certainty that if I do get a divorce, I am going to find someone else. Getting rid of the demand for certainty that if I let this sister go that has 5 red flags, all of my brothers in my circle are telling me she's not the one, but I still pursue her out of a fear of being alone, right? That's what I'm saying. You got to fix that demand for certainty, but also fix that demand that it should have happened by now. Because that leads to this whole thing of there's something wrong with all of me.
I got you. I read something very it resonated deeply with me today. You hear different comments on this. Life is a marathon or life is a sprint. Should you go as fast as you can, or should you pace yourself as a marathon? And I read a quote today and I felt like it
juxtaposed both of these statements with great balance, and that was, life is a marathon punctuated by a series of sprints. And I like that, and I can actually relate to that. Just recently in my own YouTube growth, 2 years of YouTube and just 10,000 subscribers. Suddenly in 3 weeks, the channel grew by 50,000 subs, mainly because of one video, one short as well in particular, right? That just went super viral. And now the growth has slowed down again, and I'm back to normal. And it's been a marathon punctuated by a sprint. Now we're back to the marathon again. And the take-home message I want the brothers to have is, go at it, go hard, but have in your mind that this is a marathon. And those sprint moments will come at times that you least expect. And sometimes you're baffled, like, why? How? Just whatever, it is what it is. But the only way you're going to be able to experience that is if you go back to what we said at the beginning, what Seth was talking about as well, which is to be consistent upon your daily actions. Only then will you be able to have a fighting chance of experiencing some of those sprints. Maybe you went 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you had no wife, and then in the space of 6 months, you got 3 wives. It's happened to one of my friends just recently. Got 3 wives in the past 6 months, Allah about it. Like, bruv, big man thing, you know what I mean?
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay, there's one really practical. Sorry, honey. One thing that I really want to say that's practical advice that's helped a lot of brothers, right? It's audit not only yourself, but your methods, your routes to victory. We're talking in this context, we're talking about landing, inshallah ta'ala, as a halal wife and somebody that you can, pour into, whatever it is. But look, listen, so a lot of brothers are hitting a wall when they look at their apps every day. It's just instant gratification, click, 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 click. And then going to an event, boom, the sisters over there coming out with some what's it called? Masculina vibes. Akhil Kareem, one of the brothers that I know, subhanallah, did a very simple thing. My man took a little flight to Algeria, patterned a beautiful thing, came back, Allah Mabarak, living the life, and another brother went back to Somalia. Bro, the brother's around about maybe close to 40, patterned, I hope it's legal, man, but 17-year-old, Allah Mabarak, brought her back, man. So subhanallah, one of the routes I want to tell, one of the advices is to audit your methods to getting the woman. What are you doing? Are you connecting with and another thing that I keep telling brothers is to look at the uncles in your masajid, in your family, go through them, particularly if you've got a good reputation with your masjid, if you're going to durus, whatever it is, look to those uncles and obviously have the khalis niyyah that you are connecting with another brother, inshallah ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the secondary niyyah can be your zawaj. But look at these different options, inshallah ta'ala. And if you see around yourselves a bunch of masculinas, then my brother, you got to go back to the east, bro. You got to go back to these countries which are still, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, feminism hasn't taken a stronghold there yet. So that's just a quick advice I wanted to part as well, inshallah ta'ala.
I think that's good advice. And that actually segues into one of the other questions that I wanted to bring up to you, brothers. Let me drop this in the chat for Nick. So there we go. Nick, here you go. Just hit that StreamYard. You can come on up. Look, this is another question I wanted to ask you guys because I'm not sure if you've been seeing it online, but this thing that is causing a stir in the States is the passport bros. And so, have you guys heard of passport bros?
Brothers that leverage their passports to get a beautiful wife from abroad. No,
exactly.
Leverage whatever you've got. Audit yourself. What do I have? I've got money, whatever it is. I've got a passport. Flex it, bro. Leverage the thing, rude boy. That's my.
You know what?
And so,
you know why these women are getting upset? It's because they don't want to compromise on whatever their standards are. But they're seeing that these men are finding solutions for themselves, and they're getting angry because they are not willing to I'm not going to use the word compromise, to bring their standards down to the realistic level of what the market demands. If you qualified, I say this all the time, if you qualified for what you're demanding, sister, you'd already be married. Big man thing. You'd be married. Clearly you don't qualify. The market is screaming at you. I created a product. No one's bought it for 5 years. I must have a dead product. Do you understand?
Yeah. Well, furthermore, the law says, "Do we not make this world spacious?" Right. So
Mic drop right there, man.
yeah. So that's number one. And then the funny thing about these sisters is that they want a traditional Muslim man, but they don't want to be traditional Muslim women. It's not supposed to align. So it's like, you know, you get what you give, and you know.
And so look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a pin in this because I want us to really come back to this passport bros thing. Because after
give me
tomorrow,
the
I
app.
want
One thing.
yeah.
Give me the passport bros app.
What I want you guys to do.
One thing can I say? These sisters are shaming brothers. Well, like they should be shamed. Why are our brothers in the UK, in the US? Why are they going to these other countries? What's wrong with me? I am shameful. Woe is me. Let me be more feminine. Let me draw these brothers back in. Why are they going out? That should be the reaction. Rude guy.
Yeah. So look, let me pause this right quick. We'll put a pin in it because I do want us to come back and have this conversation. Because one of the things that I've been saying for some time to sisters is, look, brothers are going back home. So what has become popular now amongst the African Americans in the States and my Latino brothers in the States is getting their passports and going further east or going out in Latin American countries. But look, let's put a pin in that because Nick is here. And Nick, I want to bring you on. My brother Mahdi, you can take over the conversation.
Yes, Nick, what's going on, bro?
How are we doing, brother?
Habibi, alhamdulillah. How you keeping, akhi?
Doing really well. How about yourself?
Bro, I thought you were already Muslim. That was my understanding. I didn't realize you're taking the Shahada yet.
I was thinking about it. I'm just gonna be completely honest. The reason why I reached out to you, I was gonna do it where I was gonna have the Imam at the mosque nearby me do it with me on January 1st. I'm kind of a sentimental person, and then I talked with Nabil, right? Nabil Aziz.
Yeah.
Nabil Aziz was like, I wouldn't recommend that. And I said, why? He's like, because you could die tomorrow. I was like,
exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. And then, I really thought about it and I was like, well, what's the sentimental part that I have with the Imam there? Personally, like when I talked with him, I felt like there was a lot of very blue pill things that he was saying that I didn't agree with at all. And I was like, well, who would I want to do that with? Because I am sentimental. And I was like, one of the main people that brought me towards Islam was Mahdi, and listening to him and realizing that there was a very, very good balance in what I believe a high value man is without having to become a total degenerate in the process as well. And so listening to Mahdi was such a huge inspiration to me to take the leap and to start focusing more on living in this life. So I was like, you know what? I think I'd like to do it with him.
SubhanAllah, it's amazing. Before we do that, Nick, bro, tell us your journey, before you came across my content and things like this, because obviously, Nick, by the way, is a very well-to-do gentleman. He's a very successful copywriter, does very, very well for himself. Yeah. And he's accomplished a lot at a very young age, right? So tell us about your journey, Nick.
So I'm 23 years old currently. And I started running businesses when I was really young. Like when I was in high school, I discovered Money Twitter when I was in high school. And so I was on Money Twitter and there was this guy, his name was Ray. And he was tweeting up all these books always on entrepreneurship. And, I'd always been hustling here and there, selling some stuff here and there. Like I would sell shoes and stuff at my school. But I really just didn't feel like college made sense. So something felt off. And so I started reading all these books on entrepreneurship. And I realized, whoa, this is a way different lifestyle. And it just felt like such a better path to take. So I never went to college or anything. Like while all my friends were at college partying, I was working in this office, a sales job that my boss would literally let me sleep at the office. I was pulling some Elon Musk stuff where I'm sleep at the office working 100-hour weeks, going to a gym to shower at night and in the morning, and then coming right back and sleeping at the office and getting right back to work. So I grinded for a very, very long time. Eventually discovered the art of copywriting. I switched from sales to copywriting because I'm naturally a writer. And I want to just summarize stuff. I don't want to get to all the nitty gritty details, but I dedicated my life to this and got really, really good at it. And to the point where I was making really good money for my age. I mean, I was 22 making consecutive 30, 50, 60K months and was just making this stupid money. And, it's just so blatantly obvious to me that it's funny because I watched the movie Malcolm X yesterday and wow, our stories are very, very different. There were similarities that I saw where it was start making money and then corruption sinks in because you don't have a correct guide in life at all. So I had no guide in life. I don't really have the best relationship with my father. My stepfather and I aren't like very close either. So I wasn't able to have someone to like tell me, hey, here's how to operate in life when you do have money, because none of my friends have money at all. And so I started just acting like a total degenerate. I was abusing drugs. I was abusing alcohol. I was not abusing women physically ever, but in terms of my relationships with women, like it was entirely sexual. There was no like intimate connection at all. And I will never forget this moment where I was like sitting on the floor in my house, fully furnished, like 3-4 bedroom house. I have a Porsche 911 in the garage. I'm staring at my bank account. I have like $100,000 in my bank account. There's a girl on the couch asleep behind me, and I was even like smoking reefer at the time. And I just remember breaking down, just like crying. And I had to leave the room because I was like, I can't let her see me like that. And I was just sitting in the bathroom, like just bawling, crying, and I didn't know why. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized like God is not in my life at all. I am completely devoid of God. I am so far distanced from it. And something just hit me that it was saying, go find God, go find God. And so I stopped everything at that point, and I went towards Orthodox Christianity because that's what was familiar to me. My family's Eastern European. My mom is from Ukraine. My dad is from Ukraine. So when I walked in there, it felt familiar because a lot of the art around our house was like that art that was on the ceilings. So that's what felt familiar. It was very beautiful. But just something didn't click. And the thing that I couldn't process, I'm like, why? Like, Jesus, peace be upon him, was a phenomenal prophet and was very, very smart. And I felt like he had beautiful teachings, but I did not feel like he was the one that needed to be worshipped. Who was he worshiping? He was worshiping God. And when they were saying, oh, well, what was it, that the only way through the Father is through me? That does not mean never does it say worship me. It said that means that I'm a prophet. You're supposed to follow in my footsteps to worship God. And I didn't feel like they were talking about that at all. And this was a very, very, very big flaw. Like, that's not a small little whatever, kind of thing. That's a very big flaw. So I think that made me almost like lose faith in faith altogether. Because I even was looking at the Bible. I'm like, I don't even know that what I'm reading is the accurate word of God. To me, this feels just like a bunch of stories that were handpicked and chosen by kings across time to manipulate people, and also with a lot of contradictions throughout the entire thing. So I had another descent back into this degeneracy. And I was like, okay, well, that's not it either. Don't go back to the thing that like caused you to go towards spirituality. And I saw Brother Tate had converted to Islam, and I've been following Tate for a very long time. I thought that he was a very, very smart individual. And it made me genuinely curious. Why did he do that? Like, he's a calculated person. He doesn't do that on accident. And at that point as well, Mahdi stuff started, like everything hit me like a wave right at that point. My YouTube algorithm, everything like just started showing me this stuff. And I saw Mahdi on a podcast with this girl Pearl or something, and listening to him talk about Islam, I realized, I was like, whoa, there's a lot that I align with here that he's saying in general, and how I think like the dynamic with women should be and everything. Saw the thing with Tate, saw that, and all of a sudden I just decided, you know what, why don't I just read the Quran? I've never read it before. And so I just decided to get it. And that day I remember reading it. I read the first chapter, which was like a page, right? And then I read the second chapter and read through the entire second chapter and was like crying while I was writing it, because I'm like, this is what I believe. Like, this is literally what I've been saying since day one. There is one God. This is the God to follow. And that there's no, that these are messengers, these are prophets, but there's only one God to worship. And I was so aligned with it that day. I think like that next hour I went to the mosque nearby, and in the masjid, when I walked in, there was one brother, his name was Imran, who funny enough was the name of Mary's father as well. And so Imran was there, and he was by himself, and I walked in and I just kind of let him finish his prayer. I didn't say anything, and he turned around and started talking with me, and I explained to him my story and everything, and he was just like overwhelmed, because like I had like a message that someone's going to come and I have to guide someone. Like, I just had this message. And then another brother, Ahmed, was there as well, and he was not an imam, but he was one of the priests there who was teaching a lot. Not priests, sorry if my terminology is not right, but he was one of the people teaching there quite frequently. And both these brothers sat down with me for like an hour and a half straight as I was asking questions and everything, and I'd never felt more welcomed ever in a religion. I thought that as a white man, I'm not welcome here. As a man with Jewish blood inside of his family, he's not welcome here. And I realized that none of this was accurate at all. I was very, very much so welcome here. And in fact, every single brother that I've met at the mosque, when they talk to me, they're almost inspired at like how I came to Islam. And what they tell me is several of them have told me, you've like reignited my passion for Islam. I don't remember the exact terminology, but one of my brothers, Yusuf, he mentioned to me that for the man who had always had Islam since birth, it's been a part of his life. Islam is like I think he said a cow or like a cattle. It's just there. It's just part of his life. But to the man who has rediscovered it, it is like a mountain, right? And it's this massive thing. So to me, as I've like gone further and further into the religion, into the practice, praying 5 times a day, reading the Quran daily, really affirming my beliefs, and really looking at and talking with different brothers, I've realized that this is the way in life. Like you have to follow some sort of modus operandum, and I really do think that Islam is the best one that I found thus far. And so to me, I really am resonating a lot with what you guys say, and I'd love to circle back to some of the topics in terms of like marriage and finding women, and maybe help give like some of the brothers who are staying true to Islam like some reaffirming truths that like you're doing the right thing. Like I've gone to the other side, I've done the stuff that you may be being tempted by, and it's not worth it at all. It's seriously not worth it. But yeah, that's I think a good summary of the story up to date. Yeah.
So Nick, we got to get you in this fold, brother.
In the fold, man. Allah Barik.
Mahdi.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me.
Yeah,
can I comment? Because that was a great story, man. Alhamdulillah. You make a really interesting point, and it's something that I had to come to understanding, because we all like, we're all human, so we're all susceptible to the things that you actually went through. So being, I always tell people, being Muslim doesn't necessarily guarantee you heaven. It just gets you a court date. You get judged.
I like that.
Other people don't get judged. They just, but being Muslim, you get a court date. You get your day in court, and you get to plead your case. But it's a difference between what you were going through, especially living in the West. You kind of everybody goes through this, maybe not to the extreme that you went to, but you got to know the difference between chasing happiness and learning how to be content. And what Allah teaches us in the Quran is contentment. And if you, and America always says, be happy, and you start going on this dopamine chase, that will always leave you unfulfilled. And the analogy I always tell people is like chasing a high. Well, you're going to take crack, and then you're going to take, cocaine and crack, and you're going to keep chasing this high, and it'll never be fulfilled, versus learning how to embrace sobriety. And what Islam always teaches you is the guidance is being content, so keep that in mind, because these desires are in us for a reason. They're designed to make us better, not to hurt us.
Well, so if I can just put together, sorry, Akhi, if we can just put together, mashallah ta'ala, your beautiful story, Akhi, and what Seth said, and the topic. Ibn al-Qayyim, an incredible scholar, Akhi Nick, inshallah, I can send you a PDF of some of his work. He is called the Doctor of the Hearts. He's an incredible scholar. He said that there is a void in the heart that nothing can fill except from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can go chasing whatever it is, a woman, women, you can chase accolades, Forbes 30 under 30, whatever it is. Any status, nothing can fill that void. As Richard Dawkins, when he himself talks about this, the God gene, this toxin that we have to get rid of, according to the atheistic beliefs. This inner desire and want to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you felt that, Akhi, and I'm sure you resonate with that quote more than a lot of brothers out there. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah ta'ala, we want you to come into the fold quickly, bro. So inshallah, Mahdi, without further ado, man, bismillah, let's bring our brother.
Of course. You ready, Nick?
Let's do it.
Bismillah, repeat after me. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad
is
his slave and final messenger.
is his slave and final messenger.
Allahu Akbar. Takbir.
Wow.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu
Wow.
Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Welcome, welcome, Habib.
I'm happy to be here, man. That's crazy. I wanted to circle back maybe to like what I was saying earlier with like what some of the brothers maybe be experiencing, and they see this and they're tempted by it. And maybe I hope that like someone's seen, wow, like someone who had what I'm going for realized no, not it, like, and left. I've always been like, since a very young age, I'd always been very switched on. And I know that this is not talked about inside of Islam. And, you know, it says that you should not take anything that intoxicates you. But since a very young age, and I was like 15, I don't promote this now, but when I was very, very young, I was doing a lot of psychedelics, like a lot of mushrooms to sit and like just think. And I would just ponder like life, like who am I? What is my life? So I think I switched on at a very young age, like for consciousness overall. I think there's a pure path to getting there. I took a rocket ship path basically to get there. And a lot of what I realized when I was on this journey, one was like, I was using my money as a way to like almost get people to accept me. Right. I wanted these girls to like, because I'm if I just pull top G, then you know I'm gonna be in this position where all the girls like me and everything like that. And they attract it, but you're attracting the wrong people in your life. I was wondering, why am I always so drained? Why do I always feel so like tired? Why does it always feel like something is pulling at me? And a lot of these people that I feel are not pure spiritually, even if you go and have sex with these girls, you are not going to feel anything but just that sucking of your soul out, because I really do believe that it's not like what I was telling myself, and what I think a lot of people tell themselves is that I'm empowering myself, right? It's women's empowerment and everything like that. It is the furthest thing from empowerment. It is a weakening and diluting of your soul and connection with God, 100%. And you know, I don't remember who it was that said this exactly, but really a lot of the times what you're having to do is get really good at lying or get really good at manipulating someone if you want a girl to sleep with you most of the times. And so I have a lot of these brothers who are doing this, like multiple girlfriends, all this type of stuff. And like, they're not honest at all about it. They're doing all that. And they're teaching young men. This is what I think is just so sad, that like, this is how you raise your value as a man. You sleep with as many women as possible. And I can say for a fact, that is the furthest thing from the truth right there. The way you raise your value as a man is not determined by women. It's determined by other men. So if another man that's a very high value man deems you as high value, then by a natural cause, other women view you as high value as well. So I look at it as like, I want the man who's a billionaire, who has run multiple companies, who's a religious, devout man, who's known in the community as someone who's like just a legend, who's done so much for the community. That man to think that I'm a good man and that I'm a high value man. Because if he thinks I'm a high value man, he doesn't think that this degenerate crap is high value at all. He looks at that and thinks that's so childish, right? And you have so many of these guys who are trying to do like the mini Tate thing that I don't think they can see that yet. I think so much of what allows you to be able to really step into that high value is one, understanding like just basic truths. One, that money is important. I don't care what anyone says, you know, I get it, like, oh, they're not happy, this, that. True, you can get to that point, but money just accelerates everything. So if you're a bad person and you get money, you're going to be an even worse person. But if you're a really good person, money allows you to accelerate the process of hiring coaches, hiring someone like Mahdi, hiring someone like Nasir. I don't know if you guys also, other brothers, do coaching as well. Hiring the right coaches, being able to set yourself up with a personal trainer, like being able to automate a lot of the things you don't want in your life. Like I want to hire someone to do my laundry and do my cleaning and do all that, so I can focus on my business and on my growth and all of that. But then also understanding that like the character component is huge on it, and understanding that it's to be kind to others, it's to be loving to others, it's to be understanding and not judging of others. Your physique, like all these things, there's really not that many base truths. But as a young guy who's like on this journey right now, I can say without a doubt that it's just about consistency and focusing on it. And I know like what Mahdi said, that, you know, if you've been 25 up until now following Islam, I believe if you truly are following Islam to a T, you are raising your value every single day, because you're living a very, very, very pure spiritual life. And that involves all those different areas. So I just wanted to maybe give some reaffirming thoughts to some of the brothers who may be struggling with it, is that like this other path, I'm telling you, as tempting as it is, it sucks your soul dry, and it is just something that you will feel so devoid of God.
Well, let me just add some things. First of all, Nicholas, you 33 or you 23? Mashallah, man.
Right?
I'm impressed, man. I'm
Thank you.
impressed. So, but let me just say one thing about what you said. You know, the funny thing about our faith is, you know, Allah says in the Quran, you get the good of this world and the good of the hereafter. So you don't have to wait to get it on the other side. So the thing to what you said was spot on. I think when I advise men and women, like for women to what to look for in a man, because in America, well, I'm gonna say probably pretty much over the world, if you have attraction and connection with a woman, that's enough to get her. And what happens is that you both lose because she doesn't respect you.
Oh no. Is everyone else seeing just a black screen now?
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
There we go.
I've had to learn. I've had to learn this the hard way because I didn't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know. This isn't things we're talking
Steph,
about.
we lost you, bro. You were about to drop. You were about to spit some game, but we lost you.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I said that in the West, or pretty much now, women, you can get a woman with attraction and connection. Those are the things, and to a certain extent, these two things do not appeal to their logic, right? It appeals to their emotion. Attraction and connection, they get excited. You got them, but what happens is the woman's going to ultimately lose because the natural law is going to take over for her, and she's going to need something. She may not feel beta, as we talked about before. So for women, I say the three things in order that a man should have is integrity, and integrity, God consciousness. I don't like to use the word religious because that has a bad connotation. The guy may pray five times a day and beat his wife, you know. So I'm talking about integrity and God consciousness. Secondly is leadership, and that's really what's lacking with a lot of men in the world. That's huge. And then third is provision. And usually if you have integrity and leadership, you know, good job isn't too far behind. And the reason why these things are important is that if you have these things in place, you can have the 4 wives, except they're gonna be chaste. So you don't have to worry about them screwing anybody else. And they're going to like you for the proper reasons. And ultimately, that's what men want. Men want to be respected and admired for who we are, not for what we can do. Similarly, women want to be respected for who they are as people, not what they are as women. But we do counterintuitive things, like women display their sexuality to attract men, and men show, you know, we display our utility to attract women. But we know that can only get you but so far. So to your point, you can have it all. You just have to, but the respect, the integrity, and the leadership, those things have to be earned by a woman, and that takes a little bit longer. And so sometimes when women come on to you and they'll be attracted to you, got to say, we ain't there yet. And then that'll really get them. But because I only did, because when you set that criteria of, I'm only going to deal with you I only deal with women who trust, admire, and respect me. If they don't do that, then I'm going to be no good for them. And what you find with a lot of women is, especially modern women, all they want from you is attraction and connection. When you start coming in with God consciousness, they're gonna say you too strict. When you start coming in with leadership, they're gonna say you can't tell me what to do. You know, when you come into these intrinsic masculine values, the real women are gonna appreciate that, and the wrong ones are gonna push you away. But you can have it all.
I'd like
I
to
just want to add a point here, just to back to the Shahada, is that one, appreciate you coming on and taking the Shahada at this moment with us.
Absolutely.
Right, sharing this with us. But when you were sharing your story, it brought me back to my own conversion. And I remember I didn't convert until I was 24. And I lived a very normative American lifestyle. And I was very successful in that lifestyle when it came to women. Steph, keep the lid closed. You don't know anything. But my point is, what the point is this though. I was robbed once, and before I got robbed, I heard a voice telling me to look alive because I was not in my neighborhood. The second time I heard a voice was I was laying in the bed after a night out, and I had someone there, and I remember waking up, and it was an odd feeling. I heard a voice just as clear as I could hear my voice now that told me there's more to life than this.
Mm,
Literally said to me, there is more to life than this.
yeah.
And shortly after that, I got the Quran from the university library, and I just started reading it. And after I went through I literally, I'm ashamed to say this now, but I didn't know then. My first time reading the Quran, I was probably in like a towel, right? Because I had just came back from the gym at the university, and I had it on my bookshelf, and I just tired from working out, and I just flipped it open, and I literally was captivated by it.
Yeah.
I like it was the first book that I'd ever, and wasn't Muslim, so it was literally an academic process for me, and it just captivated me, and I went through it in like less than a week or two, and then it just
Yeah.
pulled me into finding other books. My point is this: you brought me back to that voice, and it just reminds me that Allah always is trying to pull us back to what's best for us. But it also brought me to this thing that has always been a reminder to me when I see new brothers that come into the faith. Is one of the things, and Muhammad and my other brothers, you guys may know the verse better. I'm paraphrasing, but when I before I converted and after I converted, one of the ayahs, one of the verses that always stood out to me, where Allah essentially says He'll replace you. Like
Yeah.
if you don't want to worship me appropriately as I'm deserving, you can be on borrowed time. I can bring
Wow.
somebody in this joint and replace you ASAP.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
I gave you this gift, but don't get Gucci with it. Don't think you that your stuff don't stink.
Yeah.
I want you. I don't need you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that has always stayed in my mind with the ebbs and the flows of the times when my faith has been strong and the times it's been down. And it's always keeping in mind that this could be the moment, this particular person or the person I don't know that just took their Shahada could be my replacement.
Wow.
Heavy.
So I say to you as my brother, sincerely, I love you as my brother. Always keep in mind that this is a gift that Allah can take at any moment.
I think it's one of these brothers online that I was watching where he was saying, if I gave you $1 million right now for, I don't remember what he said, like, would you take it? And the guy was like, no. Or what if I gave you $1 million and you had to give me your eyes? And the guy was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, God gave you your eyes for free. He gave you your sight for free. He gave you your ability to hear. He gave you all these things for free, and you're not grateful towards him at all. It's like these little things like that. That's like, yeah, all of these are such massive blessings. We forget it. It almost in like Western culture is like, it's a corny to say, like, you know, there's kids in Africa that are starving, right? When like you don't eat your food, but this is true. This is like very true. You should be grateful. And I wanted to add two things to what Seth said that really stuck out to me. One, again, because this is so fresh in mind. I just watched that movie with Malcolm X with Denzel Washington yesterday. And he said this during one of his speeches. He said that any man can get a woman. It takes a very specific man to take care of a woman, though. And that was something I thought about that I was like, wow, that's huge. Because yeah, anyone can do that. Anyone can learn game and start learning from these pickup coaches, get in a little bit of shape, right? But to be the man that can actually be there to take care of her during like the emotional roller coaster and everything, and stay there and be firm and be her rock, like that's a different kind of man. And the other thing was when it came to, you know, saying going overseas and being able to find, you know, another wife. this is again why like I say that getting money should be one of the main things for a few reasons. One is like I personally like in my own journey to become the person that could make 60, 70, 50, 30, whatever it is the number is. I had to become a better person to be able to do that. I had to become better to be able to do that. And I think it's one of the best personal development journeys anyone can go on is business. But the other part of it is that like, because I have the finances available, I can go to like Abu Dhabi, I can go to Qatar, I can go to Dubai, and I don't know if it's Dubai nowadays. That's the thing. I know Dubai is kind of crazy now, but I can go to these places and meet that woman there. And the other thing I realized, and Mahdi told me this, I didn't know this, but because I'm a tall white guy, I'm apparently the gem of the community. Like a girl's going to be excited for that. I didn't know that. And I was like, all right, cool. And you know what's funny too, is I went on that one of those Muslim dating apps, which honestly is a waste of time, to be honest, but I'm on there. I had never seen matches like that when I was on normal dating apps. So I was like, all right, cool, good to know. I'm the hot blonde now. that's cool. But I really do think that process, like, you know, what's the good start for it? I think that what Mahdi said is taking that self-evaluation, start hitting the gym, start focusing on yourself. But like business will help you in all those different areas. It definitely will.
Juan, I'm about to bounce, but I want to just leave a couple of things for Nick, inshallah. Nick, we can chop up on DM as well before
Let's
I
do
leave.
it, brother.
Nick, as a new Muslim, one of the most important things as a new Muslim, and it sounds to me that you're already doing it, alhamdulillah, but it's to stay close with the brothers. Yani, I can't emphasize this enough. Stay close with the Muslim brothers, especially as you're new, so you have, you know, a few things to learn with regards to how to pray and, you know, some of the surahs in the Quran so that you can make the salah functional and so on. So stick close to them. And one thing you'll notice as a new Muslim, you're going to get this big iman boost. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Learn as much as you can. Stay close to the brothers. Stay close to the masjid. And take advantage of this, like, this boost that you're about to be on. Because it's not always going to be like that. You're going to be tested with ups and downs, you know? The last thing you want to happen, which has been a problem in the da'wah scene, which is lots of people taking their shahada, but then there's no follow-up with them. You know, they're not tied into the communities, then they kind of fall off along the way. So it sounds to me that you're already plugged in with the Muslim community where you are. Stay plugged in, inshallah ta'ala, and whatever help and resources you need, we're here to help you as well, inshallah ta'ala. You've got
Inshallah.
me, you can communicate me with directly, inshallah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tamam.
And let me just let me just add one thing before you go, because I want to compliment you on something that you said about doing the work inside and the ebbs and flows. But when you do the work inside, you won't have to go to them; they'll come to you. So so you'd be surprised. It's a momentum, and it definitely is real.
Jazakallah. It's been a pleasure, Ikhwan. Nick, an honor, my brother, an honor.
Inshallah,
Mahdi, you are my brother. I appreciate you, man, for coming on, man. Let's do it again, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Take care, Ikhwan. Muhammad, Steph, Nick, Nasser, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So look, my brother Ismail, I see you there. What would you like to share? Apologies for the long wait, my brother.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, brother? How you doing, guys?
Alhamdulillah. Apologies for the delay, Habib.
No problem, man. I was listening to you guys, and first of all, I want to welcome my brother Nicholas to Islam. Alhamdulillah. May Allah make you steadfast upon Islam and guide your steps. Second of all, you know, you guys were not speaking English. You guys were speaking facts all the way. So I want to thank you guys for that. I've taken notes on everything that was said because I think that there are a few things to be said about it. You know, the brothers that come to you, Brother Nasser, the brothers that come to you and talk about the difficulty of getting married. I understand both sides. I understand the sides of the brothers that got resources, and I understand the side of the brothers that are struggling. Because when we talk about brothers that are struggling, I was on that spot myself. And there's this thing about value. Value is very subjective. So I remember being 24, and there was this girl that I wanted to marry since high school. And I felt like she wanted to talk to me about it, about marriage, but I felt like I wasn't ready. So I avoided this conversation. And eventually somebody came and asked for her hand, and she got married to this guy. And now they have 2 kids together. Me, I'm still not married. Alhamdulillah that I didn't get married to this sister. But the point that I'm trying to make is, at that time, I felt like I was not valuable enough to be the husband that I wanted to be, and the father that I wanted to be,
Mhm.
and the leader of the household that I wanted to be. It was a problem of self-love. It was not a problem of money. It was not a problem of how I look, because beauty, value in the sense, is in the eye of the beholder. You can have sisters that are looking at you right now. 2 sisters, 2 different sisters. One of them is disgusted by you, and one of them is in love with you. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point.
Mhm.
But the problem that brothers have, especially those who are struggling, is that they have this image of what they should be. And they have a problem of self-love. They don't love themselves enough. So they think they don't deserve it. And then um, they want to go to an outside source and say, I'm struggling, and it's because women only want money, or women only want this, or women only want that. But if he looks around, there is a few women around that are willing to accept this brother, right? So I think it's a problem of self-love. And I think also this comes from the narrative around you, that you can have of what a high value man is. Because we talk about high value man, we talk about how you got to make nowadays it's crazy numbers, man. You got to make 6 figures. You got to be in shape, like you have to be under 10% body fat. You have to be, you know, this Superman type of guy. And brothers feel like they're inadequate when really you don't need that much. I mean, you need some, but you don't need that much. And also, you can have it all, but you can also lose it all. It comes from Allah. Allah can take it away from you. You can be broke today, rich tomorrow. You can be rich today and broke tomorrow. So the brothers that are complaining about, are not complaining, but they're talking about not having the resources, and it puts them in a difficult spot. They're putting themselves in a difficult spot. I was putting myself in a difficult spot at that time. It was a lack of self-love. I was not appreciating myself. I had a sister. Yeah, let's call her a sister, because back in the days I was not really into the deen, and she was not into the deen either. Alhamdulillah, Allah guided us, and we parted ways. But she wanted to marry me. She cried for me. She pursued me, bro. She pursued me, and I still thought that I was not good enough. I still thought that she wanted to use me. I still thought that she wanted to get me as the backup plan, the good guy that she was gonna marry after, getting with all the guys and have her fun, and then come back to me as the nice husband, the beta, etc. Because I had a problem with self-love. So I think brothers who are in this situation should really focus on them. And like I think it was something that Brother Muhammad said, it is that woe is me mentality. I was into that a lot. And I was focusing on what I didn't have, what I was not, instead of focusing on what I could change.
Yeah.
Because like he said,
Mm,
if you don't have it, it's for a reason.
mm.
If you're not married, if you don't have a family, if you don't have a job, you're not making the right moves. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong maybe with your relationship with Allah. There's something wrong with the way you're behaving. There's something wrong with the way you're thinking. And you need to fix that. You need to look into it.
Akhi Ismail,
And if I can, just one quick point just to add to that. From a modality, I would follow up and say, and you can still accept yourself as a fallible human being despite something being wrong with you. That's the point that I think as brothers and sisters, because this is a major thing with my client base, like like we are fallible human beings by design. So whether you want to look at it from a deen standpoint, we know Allah created us that way, or you want to look at it from a secular standpoint, the reality is you're going to fall short. So as a fallible human being, making sure you accept yourself and those shortcomings. Acceptance doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean that you endorse it. It just means you're acknowledging the milk is spilt. Now that the milk is spilt, what are the skill sets I need to develop to make sure that I can carry the milk without spilling it the next time? What are the skill sets that I need to develop so that I can get the milk out of the refrigerator without dropping it? What are the skill sets I need to develop in order to put the milk in the freezer? Because I like my milk frozen, particularly oat milk or coconut milk, because I'm vegan. I don't like the cow milk. We're not going to go there right now. We're not going to go there because I see Muhammad smiling. He ready to get in me. But my point, though, is, in all seriousness, it's like, look, the beginning of it is a thinking problem. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you. It was a thinking problem, not viewing yourself in a certain way. That's a narrative. You created a narrative about yourself, which was self-sabotaging, right? So it's changing that narrative. But look, Habib, two things. Apologies to all of you. Look, there's a brother, I think it's Kyle. If you're ready to come up, Habib, just give me a thumbs up. And brothers, Ismail, if you don't mind, give me just 5 seconds. Apologies, what am I doing? Okay, never mind. So, brothers, what I want, Muhammad, you were going to say something. What I wanted to do is not going to work. So go ahead.
No, Ismail, for sharing your story, Akhi. It takes a lot of courage, and I really mean that. SubhanAllah, like we all have to go through. I believe in the journey of manhood, you have to go through heartbreak, Akhi. You have to. I really believe it's a necessary part of building yourself as a man. And the most painful part of failure is not the failing itself. It's how much we judge ourselves for failing. As Brother Nasser was mentioning, there's no failure really if you think about it. There's only feedback. It is the most data-rich process you could ever go through to fail firsthand or whatever it is. And as you've demonstrated with your journey, you've learned so much about yourself. You learned so much about how important your self-narrative is. And the thing that we, even from a secular standpoint, one of the most powerful paradigm shifts I experienced was hearing that my self-esteem was built on accolades. It's like, I've got this woman interested in me, I've won this award at work, or I can bench this much. But then that is all going to fade. Everything will disappear except from the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from an Islamic perspective, build your self-esteem on the fact that you have a Lord who is merciful beyond comprehension. But also as an individual, as Brother Nasser said, kullu bani Adam khata'. All of the sons of Adam are by nature fallible, but the best of those are tawwabun, those who correct themselves. This archetype of the learner, Akhi Ismail, as you beautifully portrayed, is a person who is always learning, always developing. And this is why we are the apex animal, why we are ashraf al-mukhlaqat, the greatest of all creatures, because we keep on adapting. Whenever I work in venture capital and startups, whenever a venture capitalist or any person wants to invest into a founder of a company, what's the number one thing they look for is AQ, the ability of this individual to adapt. As soon as the market changes, as soon as the business model is not working, this model needs to change in order to go, to the next pivot, to then, you know, have a continue success, you need to be adaptable. And Akhil Kareem, that is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the essence of a true man, somebody who's adaptable, who keeps, you know, his hope and he keeps grounded in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doesn't lose hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not lose hope. This is the trick of shaitan, the number one trick of shaitan, to have a believer who's lost hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us firm. And Akhi, Jazakallah khair, Ismail, for your beautiful story, man.
And apologies, I have it right now. If you guys will allow me just for a second. What are you guys seeing right now?
The screen.
Web page.
Bam.
Love is never enough.
There it is. This is my community. It's launching tomorrow. Everything that I'm talking about right now in terms of the modality, I'm teaching here. It's $30 for 3 months. You have to put up some level of commitment. This isn't free, but this is the type of stuff where I walk you through the modality. So please invest in yourself, join the community. I'll be putting videos in there, teaching how to work through the modality, teaching how to have unconditional self-acceptance, how to accept yourself as a fallible human being, how to identify those unhelpful thoughts and how to change those so that you not only feel better, but get better. And that's my short plug. Let's get back to the show.
Can I just say, to add to this, Akhil Kareem Nasir, and I'm not paid to say this at all, right? And you brothers know this, but wallahi, like, I don't know anybody in this field like Brother Nasir, man. No Muslim who knows so well the market, knows so well the clientele, which is, you know, women and also brothers as well, knows the difficulties and knows, you know, subhanAllah, he's somebody who's an eclectic. He's somebody who is, what's the word, a autodidactic individual, a person who has studied a vast amount. And I was so surprised, subhanAllah, just one time when you went through it on a live, the amount of books, the amount of coaching, the amount of hours you've spent on this craft. Allahumma barik. I've sent a lot of sisters your way, Akhil Kareem, and they've come back and then this, like, you know, subhanAllah, they either two things. It's either this kind of self-efficiency and I don't need anybody. How dare you talk about therapy? That sister, she's not going to get any help. She's going to stay in that lane. She's going to stay in there. And I'm sorry to say this bad news, to be the bearer of bad news. But then the other sister or the other brother, the one who says, you know what, he's got something that I don't. He's spent so much time and effort to understand this. I can go on my journey and spend years and years and years to understand modalities, do courses, and then work my way around to understand the market. Or I can spend a little bit of time, join the community that Brother Nasir has set up, or spend a little bit of time and do a one-to-one session, whatever it is, and I will reap the rewards that would have otherwise taken me, you know, potentially a lifetime to get. So really and truly, Akhil Kareem Nasir, I don't see anybody I don't know anybody really that is doing what you're doing, Akhil Kareem, and, you know, specifically for the Muslim market. So inshallah, you know, I really do believe, brothers and sisters, if you know, if there's any benefit in all these hours of content, subhanAllah, that Brother Nasir has been putting together, then make sure that you avail this opportunity, as it doesn't come around often.
MashaAllah, I appreciate you, Habib. And the link is in the comments. So no further ado, brothers, please continue. Seth, were you about to say something? Or Ismail?
No,
apologies.
No,
Brother Cal, are you ready? Should I add you to the stream, Cal? There's another brother waiting.
Yeah, if I can just add something.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
One of the things that were said, it was I think Mahdi said it about, you know, the sheikh who was saying that if you are now married by 25, there's something wrong with you. There's a problem with this narrative, and the problem is we're not talking about why is a brother not married, because this makes all the difference. Because you see, us men, we're not like women. If a woman is not married by 25, it's because no one proposed to her, because men propose to women, right? But women don't propose to men, usually. It might happen, but usually that's not how it goes. So it means that there's a reason why. If the reason is rejection, systematic rejection, then yeah, you got to look into yourself. If you get rejected all the time, there must be something wrong with you. Fix that. You know, try to see what it is and fix that. But if it's not rejection, but it's more you cannot find your fit, and you even had proposals coming your way, or you had, you know, sisters showing interest, and you just don't want to marry those type, like the kind of women that showed interest are not the kind of women that you want to marry, which is what happened to me, which is what happened to, I would say that the majority of brothers, the majority could get married if they wanted to. They could if they wanted to. But the issue is their expectations of what a woman should be for them. It's twofold, right? They have prerequisite, and then they have their ideal. But the prerequisite, I think I can speak for most brothers when I say brothers want 5 things out of a woman. Those are prerequisites. They want a woman that has a minimum of fear of Allah, right? Just a minimum. What I say a minimum is like you're going to work, you're not worried about what's happening behind your back. The second thing is they want a woman that is chaste, because, I mean, I don't have to explain that. We are men, we all know what it is.
Mhm.
They want a woman that is respectful. You don't want to come home to a woman that, you know, say crazy things to you. And the fourth thing is haya. You don't want to be walking around with a woman that does not cover herself and she's showing the goods to everybody. And you want to be attracted to the woman, just attracted enough so that you want to be intimate with. Just attracted enough. We're not talking about models. We're not talking about none of that.
Okay, Ismail, can I add a point over here? Is
Yeah.
the fact that it might be outrageous to some, but 8s and 9s aren't really 8s and 9s. What I mean by that is a woman who is maybe a 9 out of 10. Generally in her life, doors have been opened to her that haven't been opened to a woman who's considered relatively maybe a 7 or a 6, and as such, she hasn't developed herself. She hasn't developed those traits that are attractive enough to get her through the door because she's already got the doors open through her looks. The other thing is that there was a hadith, Rasulullah, he mentioned when you see a woman, right, that is attracted to you and it's not halal for you, what do? You go back to your woman, i.e. the one who is halal for you, the wife, because what is with that woman is with this woman too. So really, if you talk to married brothers, if that level of the threshold level of attractiveness, as you said, Ismail, it is enough to then, you know, shall do your thing and raise this, and this woman gets raised in your mind as she is halal for you, and if your heart is pure, as subhanallah, one of the Salaf he mentioned, I think it was I forgot what his name was, Malik ibn Dinar, or the one who subhanallah was a dream interpreter. I forgot his name, but he said that my heart doesn't even incline to the haram. The halal is so beautified for me that it doesn't, you know, the haram doesn't come to me. So Akhil Kareem, you're 100% right. Don't go for those 8s and 9s, inshallah ta'ala, unless you find an 8 and 9 who does have these incredible traits. But yeah, you're more likely to find that in a woman who meets your attraction, of course. But you know, she doesn't necessarily have to be mind-blowingly beautiful, Akhi.
And that's the thing that what you said is very correct. And usually you don't find those 9s and 10s being the most pious women. So, you know, and most guys, I think they don't want to spend their life with an amazing, beautiful woman. They just want to spend their life with a woman that they find attractive, and that's good enough for them. But finding all those prerequisites in a woman in the West right now, today, this is, I mean, you're looking to strike gold after the gold rush, you know. And so what you said about guys going home, I see the same thing over here. I live in France, but I'm of Algerian descent. And what I plan to do, inshallah, bi'nillah, is to go back to Algeria. And everybody's been advising this to me. I had, you know, a few brothers around me who couldn't find a wife over here. They went there. They went to North Africa. One of them went to Morocco. One of them went to Algeria. And they found wives. And they were They told me, like, you find attractive women who are chaste, who have a minimum of fear of Allah, who are respectful, they're raised traditionally. Because nowadays, I mean, even if you find a good woman over here in the West, a good Muslim, she fears Allah. She's more practicing than you. She reads the Quran every day, but she still has that feminist programming ingrained in her. It's like at this point, it's subliminal, it's subconscious. She might be struggling to fight it, but it's still there. I don't want to be, you know, redoing her whole education. I'd rather go where the education is done properly. And I would like to advise the brothers as well. If you have the possibility, don't bring a woman from a Muslim country to a Catholic country. Like, keep her there if you can. If you have the possibility, if you can go there, it's even better for you. And
so Ismail, my brother,
yeah,
you sound like you in favor of the passport bros.
I'm very much in favor of that. The passport bros should be the Muslims first, to be honest. And as a matter of fact, Mahdi said something about how, you know, it got women crazy. Have you noticed that all the movements, the red pill, the MGTOW, the blue pill, the black pill, sorry, all these guys did not make the women go crazy like the passport bros? And it's like, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, why is that? It's because women only understand attention. They don't know if it's negative or positive. They just understand attention. You know, it's either you have attention, you're giving her attention, or you're taking it away from her. So with the red pill, you're giving women attention because you're saying, oh, this is female nature. They're like this, they're like that. With the MGTOW, you're saying, oh, we're not going to deal with women, but all you do is make videos about women. With the black pill, is the same thing. But with the passport bros, you're telling men, go see other women. And what a woman hates the most is the attention that she collected from men shifting to another woman.
That's
right?
an interesting perspective. That's an interesting perspective because one of the things that I've noticed recently with the passport bros is just the visceral response from sisters, the TikTok videos, just straight shaming and labeling and downing and trashing of brothers who have just decided that they're going to take their time, attention, and resources to another country and engage in relationships with other adult women. Like, let's be very clear. These are other adult women that they're engaging with, right? And so it's interesting to me the visceral response. And so why is this something important? And Kyle, my brother, I please come in because I know you had a different perspective. Why this is important to me is, again, my client base is predominantly Muslim women. And this is one of the reasons, this is the uncomfortable truths that I share with them is, look, you don't have the leverage that brothers have. They can easily pack up and go back to some other country and secure a marriage with a woman that culturally has been raised to hit those 5 points, culturally raised to have the taqwa, to be chast, to be respectful, to have some level of shyness, and has preserved her beauty, her attractiveness, right? Because she ain't been in the streets. Because being in the streets has a mental and emotional toll that it places on a woman. And it's interesting to me, and I'll stop with this. It's interesting to me that when you talk to the masculinas, that's the part that they don't like to acknowledge about why brothers have an age like requirement, right? They don't like to acknowledge that a part of the reason why brothers have an age preference is because the likelihood of a sister having that mental and emotional trauma is minimized, right? Because there's the belief or the perspective that she's been through less events, less relationships, less trauma. And thus, that's less that I'm going to have to unpack, less baggage I'm going to have to carry. And so what these brothers, these passport bros are doing is they're deciding that they just want to carry less baggage, right? We're all fallible human beings, so we're all going to have some level of baggage. But what these brothers are saying is, look, I prefer to go over to this country where the sisters have less baggage. They got baggage.
And do you know?
But I can carry that baggage. That baggage over there is the carry-on baggage, not the check-in baggage.
And do you know why the sisters that you talk to are mad about this? They might not be in the streets, but they get mad because what we want is not what they've invested their time and energy into developing. So what they've developed is having a degree, masculinity, not masculinity in itself, but traits that are masculine because they are more conducive to success, right? Their careers, going to school, getting degrees, etc. So they're gonna talk about that. They're gonna say, yeah, but I don't understand because I have a degree. I'm successful. I have a career. I have, good money coming in. I have good money saved up. I have my own apartment, etc. And when we say we don't care about that, when we say what we care about is youth, when we say what we care about is chastity, feminine attributes and feminine skills, or skills that are usually traditionally attributed to femininity, they get mad because they haven't invested the time. From the time when they were 15 to 25, that's 10 years. In all those 10 years, it was just about going to school, getting your degree, getting a career, getting a job, climbing the corporate ladder. It was not about cooking, cleaning, learning how to be a good wife, learning how to make a home, how to turn the house into a home. It was not about learning how to communicate, how to resolve conflict within the couple, etc. But over there in Algeria, in Morocco, in Egypt, etc., that's all they do. When women gather and have coffee, that's all they do. They talk about their husbands and the home and the kids and etc.
Well, I think, just to add to this, I think the reason why this is also a challenge is because we've just experienced, and kind of like what Nicholas was talking about earlier, is that, natural law always takes over eventually. And so to your point about women chasing these careers, they got attention. I mean, they got what they thought they wanted. They got the degrees and they got companionship because guys were giving them sex, but they weren't getting marriage because their expectations were low. If you think about it, a lot of shows that we watched growing up, and I just heard this from somebody else. You look at Martin. Martin was a show that lasted 5 seasons. The first 4.5 seasons, him and Gina weren't married. When they got married, the show over. So we, a lot of women accepted premarital sex as sufficient. And then but when they realized that, that's not sustainable long term, and their homes are broken and they don't have help with raising their children, and they have these other things, now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, to get a home, I got to learn how to make one. And, in order to be a wife, I got to learn how to become one first. And it's uncomfortable, that cognitive dissonance that they got let down. So I agree with you. I'm just adding to that point of, that's where the heartbreak in. And guys gave them what they wanted. They got to, I think the brother, Coach Nazir said, women don't know the difference between attention and intention to marry.
Yeah.
And they was getting a lot of attention, and they thought that was gonna hold them over. And they realized, because the other female counterparts, the white women, and at least I'm speaking for the African American, because I think we suffered the most. But I think you look at other cultures, they got a lot more stability in the long run. But I think it's happening across the board in all races now, to be honest.
So look, if we can, my brother Kyle, can you? I think you have a different view. Can you unmute and share your perspective?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, brother. Sorry about earlier. I had to take a call from my mother, so mum comes first.
No doubt.
So I think, again, I mean, some people may say a lot of this is anecdotal. I've got a different upbringing, different background. I'm a first generation born Pakistani here in the UK. Both of my parents are from Pakistan, and I've seen a lot in the wider British Pakistani community and in my own family, my immediate family, my extended family. What I have seen is a lot of evidence of a disconnect between someone who was brought up as a Muslim within a Western society and someone who was brought up Muslim in an Eastern society. There's a disconnect there. And I think that's where there seems to be a lot of problem, and you have these problems happening, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's differing views on, gender roles and all those things. I've just seen a lot of bad. Now, I mean, unfortunately, there is still forced marriage going on. I know, because I was forced into a marriage at 16. That wasn't of my choosing, by my father. I chose to leave the marriage because let's just say I was getting close to committing haram, going into zina, and also, we just weren't a match in any way, shape, or form. And I feared how that would impact, first of all, my children, for that to go on, and also myself, obviously. But I just think that, look, there's, as Brother Mahdi said, there's no guarantees with anything. I remember one instance in particular. My first cousin, he was about to get married to this girl, and he had these doubts, and he even said out loud to my dad. And my dad's very no nonsense. He's ex-military. He's very much an alpha male, firm but fair. And he says, "Oh, I want certainties." And my dad just scoffed at him, and he said, "Son, if you're looking for certainties, then you're not going to find them. The only certainty is that you're going to die and you're going to, be in front of Allah one day. That's the only certainty that you've got." And there isn't. But at the same time, there's risks, and there's calculated risks. And I just think that, I think particularly in the UK, I'm not saying that there's not marriages where the brother or the sister have gone back home, so to speak, in my case, Pakistan, and they've found a suitable spouse. But I just see way more problems, way more problems. I mean, I'll give you an example from my own family. My own first cousin, he got married to a girl from back home. They've got, mashallah, 5 children. Now, this brother, the men in our family were very much of the same ilk. We're grafters, we work hard, we work a halal income, we've got principles, we try to provide for our family the best way that we can. And he is beaten, mocked, and I mean literally beaten. This woman is half his size. He's like 6 foot tall, and he's a big guy as well, mashallah. And I see so many of these instances, particularly within the British Pakistani community, whether it's the guy who's perpetrating it, whether it's the woman, whether they're both just as bad as each other. And I think a really big thing, like I said, there's also the disconnect, but I think at the same time, you really need to know what it is you're looking for. You really need to know. And I mean, in terms of deen as well, because if you're not out to please Allah and you're just out to please yourself, I think that's another thing that I've seen that's a common denominator within these marriages where things are going bad, is because it's just they're not really doing it for the right reasons. So I think.
So, question for you, and then I want my brother Muhammad to jump in because he knows more of the UK than I do. I'm still trying to figure out what bloke is. And I still haven't had fish and chips, but that's another conversation.
You're missing out,
But so
brother.
that's what everyone tells me. So look, question though. Would you though agree that the probability of you finding a sister that is Chaz,
Mhm.
knows how to be respectful to her husband,
Yes.
has a level of shyness,
Mhm.
and by default has fear of her Lord, would you agree that the probability of finding all of those in a sister is
Mhm.
higher back, quote unquote, home or in other
Another country, yeah.
non-Western countries?
Yeah, I do, and that's why that ties in nicely with what I was saying towards the end there, where you need to have done the work on yourself to know, am I good husband material? Because I don't believe in opposites attract. I believe that you attract what you are. So if you have done the work, if you are mature, if you are able to lead a household as a man, then naturally you're going to find, I believe, if you're looking in the right places, which seems to be more and more the case of looking further back to the east, you will find something that complements that. You will find a woman who's feminine, who's willing to submit to her husband, who, who's willing to let him lead the home. So no, I mean, I'll give you another example. I've got a cousin, second or third cousin, I think now, and he didn't go that far east. He's British Pakistani like me. He married an Albanian sister, and mashallah, she is, I would say, if I could give an example to sisters who are in that kind of transitional period, they've had that eureka moment and they're trying to change themselves, I would say she's a very good example. She is submissive. She runs the household. She respects her husband. Mashallah, I think they've got 2-3 kids now. She respects her in-laws. Everybody is happy with her. My cousin could not be happier with her. He said, it's the best thing that I ever did was to go outside the UK and find someone who was on the deen, who came from a good family. And again, you need to do your due diligence as well. You need to tie your camel, as the Prophet ﷺ said. If you do your due diligence and you look for the right things, and you're on the deen, I think it's hard to go wrong. But the thing that a lot of brothers, in particular, a lot of younger brothers I've seen is, because there's a flip side to the coin, is where I've seen younger brothers getting hooked up on sisters over here in the UK who are from the same background, and those sisters treat them like dirt. I mean, they literally don't care, and they're getting hung up on them, and they're like, oh, should I go and see your father? Oh, they've said no. I'm like, brother, if there's too many obstacles, Allah's trying to tell you something here. He's trying to do you a favor, but you're too, you're being too, for want of a better phrase, pig-headed and ignorant to listen to it.
Being
So
demanding.
I mean, there's definitely a case for go. I'll be honest with you myself. I've been divorced 5 years now, and the reason I chose not to remarry yet, I'm 41 now, was because I needed to repair my relationship with my children. There's a lot of hurt there. I didn't want to bring someone into a relation, start a marriage off in that particular kind of backdrop to it, because it wouldn't have been good, and it would have caused a strain on my marriage. So I chose to do that. Alhamdulillah, I'm looking again, and I have naturally found myself, although not looking towards Pakistan, I have looked at places like, I mean, I was speaking to a sister a few months ago. It didn't lead anywhere, but Allah alam, Allah knows best. And she was Montenegrin Albanian, which I'm sure Brother Muhammad knows. Those countries predominantly they're Muslim, even though they are classed as Western countries. And I, mashallah, I found myself, even though it didn't go where we wanted it to, and I didn't, it didn't work out. I found myself more going towards that. So there is a middle ground, I think, there. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule, but I really do think that a lot of it comes from, particularly with men, you can't, moan at getting bad results if you are not putting in the work. You attract what you are. And I've seen this time and time. I'm 41 and I'm a very, very observant person. Alhamdulillah, it's my nature. I can't help it. And I see patterns, and I'm very analytical in the way that I am in my professional life, and also within my personal life as well. And I see things that maybe some people miss, and I see time and time again the brothers who put in the work, the brothers who are genuinely on the deen. And also another thing is having your parents on side. They will come round, My own father, and may Allah keep him, he's in his 70s now. May Allah keep him healthy, he's got health problems, etc. But he's ex-military, he's as stubborn as you get. You can't get much more stubborn than my father. All I said to my father was, I sat him down one day and I said, Dad, I love you, I respect you, I cannot, thank you enough for the way that you brought me up when I see all the other men around me. But what I'm trying to do is just exercise my haqq. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking you to give me that, to be understanding of that. And he said, and he listened to me, and I left it at that. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, now my father said, as long as she's Muslim, you can marry any color you want. You've got to be the bigger person sometimes.
Yeah, Ahkal, mashallah, jazakallah khair, man. This is so my experience. Just quickly, just to kind of give a bit of backdrop. I was married aged around 19, 20, British Pakistani. If you don't mind me asking, whereabouts in Pakistan is it?
We're from, essentially from the Punjab province, but we're sort of from a village in between Islamabad, the capital, and Rawalpindi.
Nice.
So for my other brothers, those are the two main cities in Pakistan. So yeah.
Sometimes in order to, we've got limited time here, so I can't go into too much detail. But what I will say, this is just broad brushstroke, right? And now I'm married to a British Pakistani. But there's so subhanAllah, first thing I wanted to say is, if you break, you're an analytical person, so I'll speak to you in a very analytical kind of language, is that if you were to break down those marriages in terms of just from a critical lens, you would notice that the failure often would lie in the man, in his lack of frame from the very start. It's not the onus of how did this fall apart wasn't because you'd find most of the time because of the sister being from a different country. It is always, unfortunately, I'm just saying this, we're brothers over here, and I would say often we have to look at it as we've made an error. We weren't in our frame to begin with, because we hold the power in the dynamic. So every time it falls on the man. So whether the woman's from Timbuktu, from wherever she is, you'd notice that the brother had a failing somewhere, and that's what I say to myself as well. It's I look at it this way: it's extreme ownership of that, right? So that's one point. The other point is I have limited time, so I'll probably this sounds a bit brash, but there are very, very few Albanian people, and alhamdulillah, I'm in London, the part of London where there's quite a few. Albanians, very, very few have a good relationship with the deen, and it's not their fault. It's the Soviet Union that has come and actually absolutely destroyed any inkling of the deen, to the extent that some people just know about the kalima, don't even know what it means. They've just memorized the kalima, or they would even celebrate Eid with a little mulled wine, right? So Albania, subhanAllah, but however, there are some pockets, right? Some shuyukh that have come from there. So that's something that you obviously probably have a much better understanding than me about, but that is something to be very wary of. Why? Because our entire value system is based on Al-Islam, right? So that's one thing. So, but another thing is that when it comes to cultures, I want you to, you're an analytical person, view cultures as icebergs, right? And I mean this to say that when you're approaching a family, you see that 10%, the tip of the iceberg, which is the food they eat. And I was talking just prior to this sister, I was engaged with a mashallah young, really lovely Moroccan sister and her family, and I was there like the Maghribi culture. I already speak the Darija. I'm able to know what they're saying and all this and that. I know they love football, food, everything like that. But there was so much more to the culture than what met the eye, that was all those cultural drivers underneath the. So realize that when you're going into a marriage, inshallah ta'ala, is particularly with another culture. As soon as that fetishism disappears, now it's going to be hard work to get to know them on a personal level as well. So that's one caveat. I'm definitely not against intercultural marriages. It's something very, very beautiful. And in fact, some of the ulama, they mentioned in the ayah, which is mentioned that وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا لِتَعَارَفُوا. We've made you different cultures and nations so that you may know each other. Very close to that is the ayah about marriage. So some scholars have connected the two to say that it's a beneficial thing for cultures to get to know each other. What's the most intimate thing to get to know somebody is to marry them. so subhanAllah, and we'd find the Ottomans, the other caliphates, they purposefully joined cultures together. So I'm not against that. All I'm saying is, akhi, When you go into that, be wary of fetishism. I do think it does play a huge part, particularly for me when I was looking into sister from different cultures. Oh wow, look, you know, the sister's got this certain attributes and twangs and all that,
Yeah.
and then really look into the sister for her essence. If she is submissive, inshallah ta'ala, and you've learned whatever lessons you have and implement those, inshallah ta'ala. Those are just a few things that on the back of what you said as well. And please, you know, do not write off sisters from Pakistan. They are, mashallah ta'ala, you know, what I'd like to say, obviously, you know, the idea of you've been bitten once, twice shy kind of thing. The same with my thing, but subhanAllah, some incredible women there. If you were to go on the ground, you'd have a much stronger chance of being able to vet them fully, having a very good understanding of the culture and the implicit knowledge that you have already. I'm just saying you have an unfair advantage of being able to vet a woman who's on the same cultural and the same kind of playing field as you are. Just a point of note. However, if you feel more drawn to that Albanian, whatever it is, nothing wrong with that. But I just thought I'd throw that in, bro.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I take it on board. And yeah, I try not to deal in absolutes. You know, the only thing that's absolute is Allah. And I take that as a constant in my life. But besides that, I'm pretty much easy come, easy go. I don't sit there and, you know, if something happens, it happens. It's the will of Allah. I'm not this one, and I think it comes with being older, but I've not completely discounted it. I haven't. I mean, I was thinking about it recently, and alhamdulillah, I've got a good circle of brothers who are friends. A lot of them same background as me. Some of them married to Pakistani sisters, some of them not. And it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I've not completely discounted it. But as you said, you know, I do have, I suppose, the advantage of being older, of having been married before, of having that life experience and having learned from it. So I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I know the right things to look for in terms of the deen. And I think the deen and, you know, this whole being submissive and a woman being respectful to her husband, I think it all ties in anyway. You know, they're all, you know, one and the same. And I do, you know, I do follow Red Pill, but not to the extent where it's something that goes without Islam. But there is a lot that's compatible with Islam. You know, it's not. I suppose they've sort of reinvented the wheel a little bit by adding a Western spin on it, a secular spin. But yeah, no, I completely appreciate what you're
Can I
saying.
just say, Seth made a really good point. He said that deen doesn't translate to good character, because Rasulullah, he said, he gave the advice to men that if a man were to come to you not only with the deen but with good akhlaq, then accept him. If you don't accept him, then there will be fasad, there will be fitna, there will be great trials and tribulations on the earth. So those two are separate things. However, they are tied intimately as well. So yeah, that just the point as well that akhlaq can be a separate ball game as well. People may differentiate that. But yeah, bro, inshallah ta'ala, you know, this your experiences have made you who you are today. They're a huge asset to you, and it's, subhanallah, you know, it takes a lot to understand a woman. It's a very mysterious creature. So alhamdulillah, you're far further down that path than so many brothers out there. Allah about it.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Well, I've got a daughter as well, so I've got that, you know, that a teenage daughter. So I've got that kind of perspective as well as a father, because I think a lot of brothers who have daughters. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit different, but a lot of our brothers are like, you know, they won't, and I've seen this a lot, where particularly in our own community, in Pakistani community, girls not really been trained up in terms of marriage. She's not really been given that kind of education at home, which I think is so vital. You know, and my daughter's young still, and I have, you know, people who don't know me, they go, you got a daughter, how old? 17. And they're like, oh, she's looking to get married because she's still in training. So, you know, because I would be doing her a disservice as well by putting her into a marriage when she's not emotionally there yet, in terms of her, because she's still, you know, she's still 17. But yeah, I mean, I do believe in terms of the akhlaq and all those things, because one thing that I cannot abide are bad manners. I was brought up to be very respectful. You know, I very much in my household, when my father was at work and he wasn't around, I was the stand-in. You know, his friends would come, I would sit with them, we'd drink tea, we'd shoot the breeze and that kind of stuff. So I was very, I mean, at the time, I thought it was a bit of a chore. But looking back, I'm thankful that I had that upbringing. But I do understand that there are a lot of brothers out there who don't have that. They haven't got that very strong masculine presence, and not just the masculine presence of, you know, a lot of the elders, particularly that I know of, from my particular background in my community where I'm from, a lot of them actually came to the deen later on in life. So whilst they were raising their children, they weren't particularly on the deen themselves. Whereas I was lucky in that I had that. So, I mean, my aim is, I mean, not just for myself. I mean, whenever I come on any kind of open forum, my aim is to, particularly the younger brothers, because I can see that they're struggling, and I can, you know, relate to that as a man, is to give them the benefit of my experience as an older guy. You know, I'm 41, I'm in my 40s, I'm not in my 20s anymore, but what I can do is relay some of that to them so that they don't make the mistakes that a lot of young guys are making today.
Got it.
Akhi, just a quick one for brothers
Yeah.
who are out there, mashallah ta'ala, with, you know, daughters 17, 18, 19, however it
Yeah.
is. The biggest, look, I'm going to say, maybe sounding outrageous, but the biggest service or biggest gift you can give your daughter is to allow her to be married at a young age, right?
Mhm.
A lot of fathers, protective, of course, and I've challenged a lot of fathers, by the way, and they tend to agree with me, is that a woman is, we don't need to go through the whole spiel. Woman develops a lot earlier. You need to protect her from, you know, fitna, all these type of things.
Mhm.
But, you know, subhanAllah, as it's going to come one day, and your argument in terms of, you know, emotional, that inshallah ta'ala, learning on the job is the best way to learn. Inshallah ta'ala. And as long as you vet this brother and know the family and the relationship the brother, you know, has with the parents, then there's no reason that you shouldn't allow our daughters, inshallah ta'ala, may Allah bless them and look after them, to get married at a young age. And a lot of excuses come in terms of emotional resilience. These things develop over time. Inshallah ta'ala. So just to know, inshallah, you know, whenever's right for you, that's up to you. You should, inshallah ta'ala, you know, just my advice to all brothers listening with daughters, inshallah ta'ala, that we should try to get them married.
Muhammad,
Barakallah feekum.
Yeah. I mean, just before I go, I will say that I've got my eyes open, very much so, in the sense that I'm not completely, you know, she's 17, but I mean, if I was to see a brother, you know, in my extended circles, someone that I knew, someone that I didn't know, if I thought he was a good brother, a good young lad, you know, he looked like he was going somewhere, he's on the deen, he's got good akhlaq, you know, he's a respectful guy. Then of course, you know, I would put it to my daughter, but at the same time, I've also said to my daughter as well, because I refuse to be one of those parents whose daughters, because I've seen the consequences of particularly not allowing your daughters to do halal. And I've seen people, and I'm not even exaggerating, I wish that I was, I've seen people getting killed over this, people losing their lives. It's no joke. And I say this to the brothers and, you know, to the younger brothers in particular, if you like someone, she's halal for you, stay away from the haram. Tell your parents, please, you do not want to end up getting bundled in the back of a van, getting chopped to pieces by brothers, because that's what will happen if you go about things the wrong way. It's no joke. I've heard of it. I'm old enough to know, and I've heard stories, and these are people that I know. So it's not a second-hand thing. But yeah, I think making halal easy is very, very important. That's something that I kind of have to remind myself, and not to get too tied up in my emotions as a father as well. So yeah.
Brother Carl, if I may just add something to that, because what Brother Muhammad said is really, really, really important. This is something that I figured out like just a few weeks ago, and it never occurred to me before. There are, you know, fathers that are also brothers, right? They stick their foot next to yours in salah.
Yeah.
They know you're a good brother. They know you got everything you need to get married.
Yeah.
And they got a daughter. And she's in age to get married now.
Yeah.
But he will never take your hand and say, let me talk to you. Or if he's shy or ashamed or afraid that you're going to reject his daughter, at least send somebody just to take the temperature and see if the brother is he's ready to get married, or is he interested in my daughter? Maybe he can take a look and just see if he's interested. They know you're a good brother. They're going to tell other people he's a good brother.
Yeah.
They will say good things about you behind your back, good things.
Yeah.
But they will never introduce you directly or indirectly to their daughters.
Yeah.
And this is why I think Brother Muhammad, Jazakallah khair, to point that out.
If I can, if you got, I appreciate these points brought up. it's coming up on 2 hours and 40 minutes that we've been on this live. And what and I appreciate you brothers for coming in. But look, this is what I wanted to do. Remember that the aim in this was to give some insight and skill sets to the brothers that are struggling right now mentally and emotionally as they are going through this marriage process. So what I want to do is end out this live with going through going through the model as I do with clients and sessions. So if you're still around now, if you stick around for the next 5 minutes, you're about to get what I charge people $85 an hour for free. So it's going to teach you how to use the model that I use in sessions on thoughts that are not producing helpful emotions or helpful reactions or actions in response to the adversities you're going through. However, before I do that, Muhammad, Kyle, Ismail, if you guys wanted to say anything before I start that, feel free to take a moment to do that. You brothers are more than welcome to stay on, but I just wanted to let you know what I was about to do. It's going to take about 5 minutes, but basically what I'm doing is I'm going to teach people how to do this model. So when you hear me use the model and say it in these lives, this is the actual blueprint that I'm always working from in my mind. What I'm working from when I'm talking with clients and sessions, I'm going to walk you through it right now. Did you brothers want to say anything beforehand?
Just a quick one, man. I think that the if there's one thing from what I said, I would like brothers, particularly who are, you know, the ones who are the subject of this discussion, those who feel completely out of their depth or feel like they've, you know, lost hope. If there's one thing that I would share with you is to not make this dunya, this fleeting domain, this lowly domain. Wallahi, if this entire dunya was presented to you, it would be less in the weight in terms of it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the wing of a mosquito, right? The entire dunya, from the time it was created to the time that it will end, all these empires of the Mongols, of the British Empire, the Ottoman Empire, all collectively was given to you on a plate. Akhal Kareem, in terms of the vastness of the hereafter, this is nothing. This is the perspective we ought to have that optimizes us, that gives us a lens to view everything around us. And as such, remember that if you make this dunya your concern, your gham, your hum, your everything, you will realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as is mentioned in the hadith, He will scatter your affairs. However, if you make this something which isn't your be all and end all, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that you seek, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that you seek to please, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take personal control of your affairs of this dunya and will make everything easy for you, inshallah ta'ala. But you have to have that tawakkul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do it in His time, in His good time. As long as you work along with that tawakkul, you tie that camel, you work as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you that, and you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if this will definitely happen, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you. So do not make this dunya your concern, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place the dunya in your lap, inshallah ta'ala.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. So I'm about to, 1 second.
And before you start, and in the meantime, I just want to add something to that, to what he said, which is you get to experience the mercy of Allah when you do the work, and when you hit that rock. You don't know how many hits it'll take to break that rock. So you got to keep on working, and it'll come in due time. And if it doesn't come, it's for your own benefit. Because if it did come, maybe it would have been harmful to you. But to the brothers who, even I get myself in this position sometimes, you get desperate because you want it so bad. But understand this: if you work on yourself, if you work on your relationship with Allah, it'll come in due time. And sometimes everything can come at once. It was this story that I'll leave you with, of a high school friend of mine that I haven't seen in 12 years. In 12 years. And this brother was looking to get married for 5 years. And he was looking to the point where he gave up. And his mother started looking for him for a year, to the point that she gave up. And one day, he just met this woman, and she was a elementary school teacher. And they got married very fast, like within the span of a month. And then he bought a house, and now she's pregnant. And everything happened within a few months.
Mhm.
After 5 years, 6 years of looking. So keep doing the work. Keep working on yourself. Work on yourself to appreciate and love yourself. And make sure that you understand that everything comes from Allah as a gift to you. So treat that relationship as such. And inshallah, binillah, everything will come in due time. And I appreciate you, Brother Nasir, for bringing all these brothers out here and talking about these subjects and helping the brothers and the sisters. I appreciate you, because you're doing the service to the whole community.
Mashallah, mashallah. May Allah accept it. May Allah accept everyone who's joined in this discussion and contributed. Right? We all learn from each other. You know, I grew up with the saying, "Iron sharpens iron," and so by us doing this together, we learn from one another. So what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm going to teach you guys the model. And it's going to be based off of a real life example from a brother that reached out for me for a session, right? He's struggling with, he's struggling in the Muslim marriage market. Brother's 31, and he's trying to get married, right? And he's finding it challenging. He's finding it difficult. So if you can, brothers, just give me a minute. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go from there. Okay, 1 second. Let me make this the full screen. So I'm going to make this bigger, and you guys let me know if it's easy for you to see or not. Can you guys see what's written on the screen, or do I need to make that a little bit bigger?
Crystal clear, as we say in the UK. Alhamdulillah.
So crystal clear. You can see it clearly?
Alhamdulillah.
Perfect.
The
Okay.
people that are watching this on the phone are seeing it small.
Okay. So, okay. I'll navigate that, and you guys give me quick feedback if you don't mind. So let me say this. This, can you see the cursor when I move it like this?
Yeah, we can see that. And just for those viewing from the mobile, if they can rotate their screens, they'll be able to see it clearer. To landscape.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this to 5 minutes because, again, I want you guys to be able to ask any questions, and I know it's late. So let me just set my timer. Bam, let's go. Okay, so the thing that I want you to understand is this is called the A plus B, the ABC model, right? This is a formula for understanding your thinking, a way for you to understand your thinking and understand your emotions so that you can de-escalate your emotions when you need to. What this model says is called the ABC model. It was developed by Albert Ellis, right? This is background information you really don't need to know, but he developed it in the 50s. It was groundbreaking. And what the model says essentially is the A is the adversity. If you see the first block, it says adversity. If you look, it says plus B. B is the beliefs, right? If you look down here, it says unhelpful beliefs. B's are the only thing we have control over. The A we don't have control over. So when Allah says that there's going to be tests in this life, He's going to test us and our wealth and our livelihood and our fans and our family and our food and our shelter. These are the things we don't have control over. Those are the A's. The B is what we have control over. The B is the narrative we create after the test happens. So A plus B equals C. So if you can't control A, but you can control B, then if you want to change C, that means you have to get in control of B. B is your narrative you create, the thinking that you have, the evaluations you make after the test happens. Okay? C, right here where you see consequences, physiological, consequence, behavioral, consequence, emotional, right? These are the consequences that happen after A plus B. Again, if you don't like what you're getting at C, i.e., you don't like that you feel depressed, you don't like that you feel anxious, you don't like that you're comfort eating, you don't like that you're skipping the gym, you don't like that you have a recurring headache, you don't like the fact you have tension and that you're crying. If you don't like what you're getting at C, you change B because you can't change A. Allah is going to test you. Life is going to test you. You can't control that. So let's go into the example. A adversity, when you use this model, and again, this isn't the model that I created. This is the model that was developed by Albert Ellis for REBT, a subset of CBT. When you look at the A, well, apologies, let me start off. We always start with the C because that's the easiest thing for you to identify. You know when you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious, right? So you start off by identifying what was the C. I felt depressed, right? And this is what came back from the conversation I had, a session with a client. So he was feeling depressed. What were the behaviors that you knew that you were feeling depressed? I was skipping the gym. I lost my appetite. I left the matrimonial app that I was on. I started to isolate from my friends, i.e. not going to the gym, not hanging with them at the masjid, not catching up with them. What was the physiological response you were having? A recurring headache, crying, right? So what was the adversity? Meaning, what was the test? What was going on? I expressed interest in a sister for marriage, yet she is not interested in me for marriage. Says I'm a nice guy and would like to just be friends. Okay, so the A is the event, the adversity, right? We have the C, depressed, skipping the gym, loss of appetite, headache, crying. Now what we need to find is the B. This is what we need to identify. What was the narrative that was created when you found out that the sister didn't reciprocate the interest that you had in her? Okay, you guys follow me? This makes sense so far?
Indeed, mashallah.
Okay, so let's skip down right quick. Right here, we're at the beliefs. Remember, A plus B equals C. We want to identify the unhelpful beliefs. Why do we know that they're unhelpful beliefs? Because we experienced an unhelpful emotion. If you look right here under that second block, we have unhelpful negative emotions. An unhelpful negative emotion, anxiety. The alternative, which is a helpful negative emotion, would be concern. An unhelpful negative emotion would be depression. The helpful alternative negative emotion, 5 minutes went very quick. A helpful alternative emotion to depression is sadness. So if the sister is not interested in you, it's unrealistic for you to be happy about it. It's okay for you to be sad about it. Sadness is a functional negative emotion, meaning you can get up and you can go to the gym. You can hang out with your friends. You can make your salat on time. You won't leave the matrimonial apps. You won't have the recurring headache. So sadness is the emotional goal. So I'm going to speed up because we hit the 5 minutes already. Here is the unhelpful belief, meaning what he was telling himself. One of the things that my client was telling himself was, because I'm a nice guy, sisters should want me for marriage. And it's awful and I'm a failure because she doesn't, right? It means I'm undesirable, meaning no one is ever going to want me. That's the belief he had. So what this model says is, if you come down to this very last block, it says that 4 ways in which you can categorize your emotions are demands, meaning must, shoulds, have to, that something must happen. I must be a certain way. I must do something. Others must do something, or life must provide you something, right? Or it must not give you something. Awfulizing, meaning that it's 100% bad. Absolutely no good came out of the situation. Low frustration tolerance is when you tell yourself you can't stand something, you can't bear it, right? And depreciation is when you start labeling and downing yourself as being unlovable, being a failure, being worthless, right? For parents, when you say you're a bad parent, right? So let's just go up right quick. And again, I'm going to wrap this up. What you do with the model is, now that you have the B, the unhelpful belief, look how systematic this is. You go up here to the top, A plus B equals C, the adversity, the belief, the consequence. Now we're at the D. The D means to dispute. What are we going to dispute? We're going to dispute the B, because the B is what gave us the C, right? We dispute the unhelpful belief so that we can change the unhelpful emotion we experienced at C, right? How do you do that? You systematically do that. You use right here what we call the help technique. And I'll just use one of them. So right here where it says, because I'm a nice guy, sisters should want me for marriage. And it's awful and I'm a failure and undesirable because she didn't. Right here, let's dispute it. Where's the evidence that Muslim sisters must be interested in you for marrying? It must be interested in marrying you because you're a nice guy. Where's the evidence for that? Where is it written in our scripture? Where is it written in secular law that a woman must like you because you're a nice guy? It's not, right? So the alternative, right, the new effective belief that you should have that's going to lead you to sadness versus depression, i.e. you're de-escalating the intensity of the emotion from depression to sadness, is I want sisters to want me for marriage because I'm a nice guy, but they don't have to. And it's not awful that they don't. And there's some benefit in their lack of interest in me. Why is there some benefit? Because that leads to the self-reflection. Maybe there's something in me, an attribute, a characteristic in me that I need to refine. This is where we go back of disproving right here where it says, is it really awful? As in 100% bad, absolutely no good that comes out of a sister not reciprocating your interest, even as a nice guy. Yeah, there is some benefit, even if the benefit is just you having to engage in self-reflection, right? And as you engage in that self-reflection, as Mahdi mentioned earlier, that auditing of self, you then can enhance and improve yourself, which positions you to be in a better space mentally and emotionally, and whatever that skill set is that needs to be improved for the next sister that you meet. So by definition, there was benefit, right? And so the other thing is, look, and we're not doing some just positive affirmation. We're talking reality. Yes, the alternative to a demand is a want. I want sisters that I'm interested in to be interested in me. But I'm not going to demand that they must, because reality is that's not logical and it's not reality. They don't have to be, right? So you skip over the effective new belief, the effective new emotion, right? The effective new emotion is going to be sadness. Sadness is going to allow you to get up and go to the gym, which is in line with your goal of preparing yourself for marriage, getting in the best space physically you can be. Sadness is going to allow you to stick to your schedule and make and set up meetings with your friends after work for coffee. Sadness is going to allow you to stay on the matrimonial app. And now I'll end with this point, and this is an important point, because oftentimes what I see to when it comes to not getting the result that they want when they're talking to someone for marriage, and when it goes bad, they just get off the apps. And they blame it on the relationship not working out, not leading to marriage. And the reality is, you got off the app not because of the marriage or the suitor not being a good suitor or not being a good match. You got off the app because you created a demand that this must work out. And that demand led you to then create another belief that it's awful that it didn't work out and you can't stand it. And that produced the depression. And how did you act out of that space of depression? Hopelessness, and got off the app. So you getting off the app is not in alignment with your goal of getting married. So that depression that you created from the narrative that you created after it not working out is unhelpful because it doesn't align with your goal. The behaviors it produces, the unhelpful behaviors that it produces, doesn't align with the goal that you have, which is getting married. So I'll stop with that. If anybody has any questions, I'll take some questions before I wrap up. But that is, in essence, the model that I use with clients, obviously in more detail, obviously with more pushback. But that's what a session is like. And that's also, again, another plug for the community. Join the community. The link is in the comments. These are the type of videos that I'm going to put in the community. I'm going to do the guided self-help form that I showed, upload those videos and put them in for the community to learn from. So you can learn from the experiences of other people, the challenges and the adversities they go through, and what narratives are constructive that help them live and think and feel in alignment with their goals. Any questions before I go, before I end this live stream? Gotta run. Great live stream. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Thank you for allowing us to contribute. Alhamdulillah. Appreciate it.
I've got one here for me.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've got just one question for me in terms
Sure.
of how is sadness a good emotion? How does that spur somebody on to go to the gym, as you mentioned, sadness?
Because it still allows you to function. So meaning, so we look at sadness as a functional negative emotion, meaning it still allows you to function. Depression doesn't allow you to function. Depression will have you calling out of work 3 out of 5 days out of the week. Sadness will have you going to work 5 minutes late 3 days out of the week, right? And sadness will allow you by default, you only late 3 times out of the week, you'll keep your job. You're not going to work 3 out of 5 days and not calling in and just staying under the covers. You're going to lose that job. So always look at emotions, right? And so what is sadness for you may be different from what sadness is for me, and the language we might use may be different. But the premise is, what is the emotion that allows you to function? You may not be at 100%, but you're still able to move and act in alignment with your long-term goals. Unhelpful emotions, right? Dysfunctional emotions immobilize you. They impede you from being able to move and act and think in alignment with your goals. That's kind of the way you break them down. So look, you go through a divorce, the emotional goal is sadness. It's not happiness, right? In most cases. I mean, some people, if you're in abuse of a marriage, right, you're happy to be free, right? But there may be sadness about other elements, right? It's a divorce, and there's sadness around having to face the community because you know your community is culturally based and going to try to shame you, right? So it may not be sadness about the actual divorce, but sadness about how the community is going to respond. And that's healthy, i.e., sadness allow you to still function, go to the masjid anyway, despite the fact that you know you're going to get the looks, the stares, the backbiting, right? What you don't want is the depression. Depression is I'm going to isolate and not go to the masjid. I'm going to stay away from the community for a year. Make sense?
Got you. Jazakallah khair, man. That was beautiful. Allah barik.
Okay, one last question I'll take. It says, to change how you think, but what if a person doesn't know what to think about in a situation or a topic? Good question. So this is why it's important when an adversity hits and you don't like how you feel. This is why I showed you at the very beginning the helpful negative emotion. That's the alternative. You got to set the emotional goal. So if I'm experiencing anxiety right now because there's a lack of certainty if I'm going to ever get married because I'm an older woman with children, then the emotional goal right now is concern, right? And so if it's concern, to answer your question in terms of what are the thoughts you need to have, what if you don't know what to think? The question becomes, what is the thinking I need to have in order to get to the emotional goal of concern? Think of concern as the destination, and the path to get there, the road to get there, is the narrative you create. So that's the question you have to ask yourself. What are the narratives that you need to create about yourself, about others, about life conditions that'll get you to concern? And the way that you know that you're not having those thoughts right now is the emotion that you produced, i.e., the depression, or in the case of the alternative concern, which would be the anxiety, right? So the thinking that you have right now is producing the anxiety. You take that thinking and you put it in and you dispute it against the help technique. Remember, A plus B equals C and then D. D is the disputing. We dispute those beliefs, i.e., that narrative we created that produced the anxiety that we don't want to have. I hope that makes sense. I appreciate you all for joining this live, for listening. Please like and subscribe. A brother needs to go. Please join the community. You'll find more of these type of videos where I walk you through the guided self-help form. My brother Muhammad, I love you as my brother. Brother Ismail, I appreciate you. Love you as my brother. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
That's it, man. SubhanAllah, 3 hours and 8 minutes. We're here, man. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you, bro. Jazakallah khair. Have a good night, man. Everyone, salaam alaikum. Jazakallah khair, my brother Nasser. May Allah bless you, man. And take advantage, people. Take advantage of the brother. And barakallah feeks Ismail as well, man. May Allah bless you, bro. Jazakallah khair.
I want to say, brother Nasser, I didn't know it was of that quality, your coaching sessions. So, I mean, this part definitely needs to be a video of its own, just to be a sample for people to see, because I did not suspect that it was of that quality, and this is the first time that I hear those things, and this is really helpful. For example, for a person like me, who oftentimes got caught up in the emotional whirlpool of, you know, just a series of events happening in your life and you don't know how to deal with it. And this gives you a clear model on how to deal with it. And the when you talk about emotional goals, this is the first time that I ever heard about this, you know,
Yeah.
because this is not material. And we are taught to deal with the material things and the material problems, and you're teaching people how to deal with immaterial problems that are actually having a bigger effect on people's lives than material problems. So I appreciate you for that, and I suggest that humbly, because in my opinion, like if I knew that this existed, your coachings, and it was like that, maybe I would have taken a coaching session with you before that. So I think people are going to be on the same position.
MashaAllah. I really appreciate that, Habib. I really appreciate that. And I would say to you, there was a time in my life when I didn't understand this model, and I would just say, after I learned it, it really changed the trajectory of my life. And so with that being said, I won't drag this out any further. I appreciate that feedback. And that's actually the direction I'm taking my channel, and why I'm doing and why I'm launching the community as well, because I'm going to do more content in terms of literally breaking down the beliefs that people give me and showing them how to systematically dispute that so that they can change or de-escalate the intense emotion, right? Because intense emotions cloud your vision, right? It clouds your vision. And so when you have clouded vision, right, you sometimes don't move as you need to move or how you would move if you didn't have distorted vision. And so this is a systematic way to de-escalate the intensity of the emotion, not so that you don't have emotions, right? But we're going to de-escalate the emotion so that the emotion we have doesn't distort our vision, and we can still think, feel, and act in alignment with our goals, right? That's the whole aim here. It's not to not have emotions. It's to create a narrative that produces an emotion that is as in line with my narrative and then in line with my goals, my values, and my purpose. That's the aim. So that's what the channel, the community is going to have, just pure content on how do you understand your thinking and your emotions? How do you de-escalate that so that you get more of what you want? In terms of the YouTube as well, I'm going to give people more samples of what I do in sessions as well. But yeah, appreciate that feedback, and more is coming. More is coming. So those of you that are in the chat, I encourage you, join the community. I'll put the link in the comments again. Join the community. It's only $10 US a month. That's not much. That's a Starbucks coffee twice in a month. So you get the value, and in the community, if you have a thought, you have a situation, you can send it to me and I'll make a video for it using the model for it. With that being said, it is late. I appreciate you, Brother Ismail. I appreciate all of you that have joined and that are still rocking with me this late. Yeah, as my brother Yusuf said, hit the like button and hit the share button. Yeah, please hit the share button and the subscribe button. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.